This is 365 Sports.
Daniels keeps it, and he scores!
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Underneath, Smith gets to the corner. Money on the rise. Touchdown, Jeremiah Smith.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Johnson buys some time. There's the tight end again, rumbling towards the end zone, and the touchdown for Ancio.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Klubnik's going to take off. Klubnik for the touchdown.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Wednesday afternoon. Hope you've had a really good day, and we hope to make it better over the next 2.5, 3 hours. 365 Sports in studio, just off the Brazos River. Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak, and again, thanks to all of our great sponsors. You heard Batteries Plus. I was told today that they have a recycling program available. If you ever need to turn in your battery, you can do that. All right. So yesterday, a massive day with the Mike Gundy news and also the John Mateer news. So there is the odds on who is the next coach to replace Mike Gundy. This is a massive list. Who knows? But here are the names. G.J. Kinney, Texas State. We mentioned him. Zach Robinson, former Oklahoma State quarterback who's now with the Falcons. Ben Arbuckle, just an hour or two down the road in Norman. John Gruden's name. In at number 4, Colin Klein, A&M, or K-State. And then we'll go down to 10-1 and better, Jeff Traylor, UTSA, who today addressed it during a media session that he has already told his players, you're going to see some things out there. I'm good. I love it. In San Antonio, we know otherwise. Not that, but that Jeff Traylor is going to be on some of these lists.
Yeah, some of these, it's inspired by the betting lines. Like Deion Sanders is not leaving Boulder to go to Oklahoma State. That's not going to happen. But, some of them are pretty interesting when it comes to G.J. Kinney. John Gruden gets high odds because he's trying to get back in. I just don't think that that's what they're going to do. But the names like Kinney and Robinson doesn't even make as much sense to me other than – he could, unless he just really wants to be the Oklahoma State head coach. But Kenny, Colin Klein, Traylor, Sumrall, those are guys I would call. Will Stein, I'm calling him. I'm calling Eric Morris. He was my number 1 of the top 5 yesterday. I'm calling those college offensive guys to get some offensive mojo back in Stillwater, if that's me.
I think Zach Robinson's like the clear number 1 choice that they're going after. Yeah. I think it's based on everything that I've heard from the people that are surrounding Oklahoma State. That seems to me where the arrow's pointed all along. When the conversation was happening about firing Mike Gundy, the immediate person that people like Carson Cunningham, who's as dialed in as anybody, went to was Zach Robinson. After Mike Gundy, where does the talk immediately go? It goes to Zach Robinson. What is said about Zach Robinson? Would he have interest? I think that he'd have interest is kind of the message that you get in return. I'm not so sure, and I'm not reporting anything. I'm not so sure they haven't already had some conversations and poked around and said, like, hey, if we were to do this, what would that maybe look like? And not like directly, but you know how that kind of goes.
Booster can contact somebody.
Go through the back channels, or you're playing golf one day in the springtime, and you're like, hey, Zach, by the way, would you ever want this job? Like, what would that look like? So I'm sure they have a pretty good grip on what somebody like him feels about the job. And I think based on nothing more than just reading the tea leaves that he appears to be like the number 1 choice. If they could just sit there and go, boom, this is who we want out of anybody. It's going to be Zach Robinson. But yeah, it might not be. I don't think the NFL thing's like, I haven't heard him say, well, this is my dream and I only want to coach in the NFL and I can only do it right now. And there's no way I can leave and never come back. Like, sure he can. He's still a young dude. So I don't think Atlanta's really long for this world right now either. based on the way things are going. So he might also be sitting there saying, I'm not guaranteed anything here for very much longer.
Yeah.
Why not go take a job where I'm guaranteed like 4 or 5 years minimum with a huge contract at my alma mater? So if I'm putting a bet down right now, I'm putting it on Zach Robinson, and that's just me. I'm not reporting anything, like I said, but all the rest of these names make a ton of sense. I mean, the Gruden thing, it's almost like Esser get off the pot sooner rather than later. If you're going to come coach college football, I feel like it's going to have to happen relatively soon, right? I mean, I get Belichick's up there in age, but Gruden's kind of played around with the college football idea for 20 years. I mean, there were Tennessee Gruden rumors going on in the 2000s and the 2010s, but he's obviously in a much better place than he was just a couple of years ago. His popularity's, back. His relationship with Barstool has got, big videos and everything. So he's intriguing and just kind of funny to see on this list all these years later. But yeah, a lot of these names they make sense. They're the next guys up. I do think there's a lot of interesting candidates that you could talk to. I think Will Stein, Eric Morris, some of the names that might not be super sexy, but are young up-and-coming guys would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I think Zach Robinson's the guy that it just feels like that's where the arrow points based on just listening and hearing what a lot of Oklahoma State folks have to say right now.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see Alex Golesh down that, but he also is not that he wouldn't want to be a part of a Power 4 conference, and maybe in the next realignment, USF will be, but he was down that far down the list. The Jimbo Fisher on the list, that's silly. The Gruden thing, who knows? But Eric Morris, by the way, I reached out to North Texas to get him on with us, and I knew it might not be this week, but I think they play USF next week, and I was told that he has had a surge, and this was before Gundy was fired, a surge of interest with people wanting to talk to him because of how they've started the year at 4-0.
Des Bryant went on Twitter, advocated for Zach Robinson earlier today. So, yeah, I think that's the choice of like the players and the fans at this moment if they had their way. But, yeah, Eric Morris and Will Stein and a lot of interesting names, even Ben Arbuckle. I don't know how realistic that is, but sure. I mean, he's right there as well, so it wouldn't be too hard to arrange something. But, yeah, I think there's a lot of fun names on here. I think there's also a lot of names that if you hired them, Oklahoma State fans would be like, what? Like, really? Like, I think Dana Holgerson's one of those. I think if you hired Dana Holgerson, the fans would be like, really? We threw away Mike Gundy to just bring in Dana Holgerson and, like, retread this thing? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to him, but that's not why you fire Mike Gundy after 20 years, is just to go to, a guy who's mostly been a coordinator and a middle-of-the-road type of head coach. This is a game-changing hire for Oklahoma State. This is a need-to-get-it-right hire for Oklahoma State. So I think you're shooting for one of those young guys or one of those big names, and anything less than that for an Oklahoma State fan base that has gone from just bottom of the barrel emotionally to now, like, who cares what happens the rest of the way? Like, if we win a game, awesome, but we're getting a new head coach, guys. Like, they're excited now. So whatever happens beyond the losses is going to be like icing on the cake, because at the end of the road, there's this rainbow that awaits you, and it's this turning of the page of this program to something new and fun and exciting. And I'm really interested to see who they bring in.
It's very clear in the talking about it among the people who cover the program, and even Chad Weiberg in what he said in his press conference yesterday about that the Gundy decision was holding them back as an entire athletic department, that they really had been kind of held hostage by a lot of it. And so when you have that, like, and look, I don't think that's Mike. Like, I don't think people should look at Mike Gundy and be like, how dare you hold the athletic department back? Mike Gundy was just acting in his own best self-interest contract-wise to make sure that all went down that way. But they didn't make the decision last year like they probably should have, and a lot of it was buyout math and whatever. But the fans, they need to re-energize the fans. A lot of these names could do that. I think that if you roll Jimbo Fisher in there, they're gonna be like, no, thank you. But if you have a Zach Robinson, a GJ Kenny, somebody like that, that'll be exciting. My thing on Zach Robinson is if he's on the track to be an NFL head coach this coming year or the year after, that's why I'd wonder if he would take it. Not why they'd be interested. They should absolutely be interested in Zach Robinson, but I'm maybe not putting as much weight behind it if he's got NFL interest too, because there's only 32 of those jobs.
There's about 3 or 4 names in this list that are in their 50s. Obviously, Holgerson, Dion, I believe Munkin. That's Army's Jeff Munkin. I thought yesterday we were talking about the guy who's at
Todd Munkin.
Todd Munkin. He's not on the list. I don't see him. So there's a few.
He's
Willie
with the
Fritz,
Ravens
obviously.
right now.
Yeah. So, but Barry Odom, who just got the job at Purdue at that bottom, down to the bottom of that first column.
Yeah, I don't think those hires really inspire you. I think you're looking for somebody young and exciting, if at all possible. I mean, there's good coaches on this list, but I think just some of these names, while they may be strong, coach. I mean, Alex Golesh would be great. I mean, don't get me wrong. I just don't know that like taking Willie Fritz from Houston is going to do like a whole lot of like amping up of your fan base, right? So I think some of these they're just names for names. But yeah, there's a lot of intriguing options. They could go the route of the NFL OC / former star quarterback. They could go with the young up and comers like a GJ Kinney or an Eric Morris or a Will Stein. They could go with, I guess, the veterans, the Barry Odoms and those types of guys, or they could have a surprise waiting for us that we're not aware of. But I think there's definitely some names that you can just like, yeah, Dion, why is he going to go from Boulder to Stillwater? Like, I feel like his name's only on there just for the sake of Deion Sanders' name's on the list so we could talk about that. And I feel like that about a couple of other names as well. Like, I mean, Gary Patterson coming out of retirement to coach Oklahoma State. Yay. I mean, sure, but are they going to win right? Like,
no,
so
they need somebody, and obviously who's going to help them get some spark, but also who's going to ignite the fan base to put money in the coffers.
Is Kalani Sitake going to leave BYU to go to Stillwater? No, of course not. Like, that's totally unrealistic. Now, the UCLA thing you can kind of see just because of the Big Ten. Maybe you'd like to live in Los Angeles. I mean, I know that I, at one point in time in life, would have loved to have done that. But, yeah, it's fun to see a list of names, though, and kind of bounce around our thoughts on it. But I keep going back to the name Zach Robinson, and that's just where it sounds like if the fans had their way today and could just magically choose a guy, like I said a moment ago, I think that would be the kind of unanimous pick. And you see former players like a Des Bryant advocating for him as well. Now, they've clearly got personal ties and are a little bit selfish, but they know Oklahoma State, and they want what's best for Oklahoma State. So their opinion matters, and he seems to have a lot of people who believe that he would be a great head coach to replace Mike Gundy. So we'll see.
All right, now, that's the other jobs that are open are Virginia Tech, obviously UCLA. Who am I missing? There's one other. There's 4 Power 4 schools that are open, and now, of course, Oklahoma State. I thought there was a 4th school.
No, just 3 right now.
Okay. Now, did you have another one?
Yes,
it's not open yet, though. It's so disrespectful.
No, but these are the odds for the next coach fired.
Okay.
Billy Napier going off at 3-2, so not a great bet.
Yeah, that's good.
Sam Pittman, Luke Fickell, Scott Satterfield. That one I don't get at all.
I don't get that at all.
Tony Elliott at Virginia.
Not after they beat Florida State this weekend.
They play them on Friday night. Dabo Sweeney, then David Braun at Northwestern. Brent Brendan, that one doesn't look likely now. Mark Stoops at Kentucky. Dave Aranda's not getting fired. Kalen DeBoer not getting fired. Bill Belichick not getting fired this year.
Bill, if anything happens with North Carolina, it might, and I don't think he's going to quit on anybody, but he would just walk away.
And Mike Loxley at 33-1, which, look, Maryland's got the most exciting true freshman quarterback maybe in the country there in Malik Washington.
So he went right over the guy from Cal because he was shut out, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But either way, but Billy Napier and Sam Pittman, Luke Fickell top this list. And after that, it gets a little nebulous in my opinion. But
still amazing that when I had that note about Paul Chryst yesterday.
Well,
62-26. But I know they couldn't get over the hump. And then Fickell was the hot coach, right? Because of what he was doing at Cincinnati.
Just Wisconsin Frank Solich. I mean, that's all it is.
Exactly right.
That's what he was. We deserve better than consistently winning at a high level every year because you're not winning national championships or Big Ten titles. Your double-digit wins on a regular basis aren't good enough. And I think had they maybe – I mean, they had an idea of what was coming and what was already happening, but I do think there are a lot of athletic departments that are making different types of decisions than they were 4 years ago, even with a lot of these big picture hires and fires and things like that. And I think Wisconsin maybe bit off more than they could chew. I don't know. But Luke Fickell, I don't feel like is the next man up. I think it's Pittman and Napier that are kind of in the race for that. And I might almost say Napier just because I think Pittman's going to at least get the end of the year to coach it out respectably between both sides, let him go out on his own terms. And yeah, we know the writing's on the wall kind of deal, but hey, you at least get to finish. Unlike Mike Gundy, who just had to get out of there yesterday. I think you could see a scenario where Napier gets fired like at some point in the next few weeks if things continue to slide as expected, given their schedule toughness upcoming. But Scott Satterfield, I think, ridiculous to have on there. I don't think he's in any danger whatsoever.
Somebody in the chat actually said that, he needs to go. I think I like what he's done. I don't know what the future rest of the season is.
Satterfield?
Like. Yeah, I think he's fine at Cincinnati. I think had they started off poorly, maybe. I like what he's done at Cincinnati, and I'll give him some time.
I don't think he's in any danger right now. I think that they're in a nice spot as it stands right now. They're not upper tier. They're not bottom tier. They're one of those in-the-middle teams in the Big 12, at least as far as the way this season has gone so far, and we'll see where they play themselves into over the next few weeks. But, yeah, I think they're in a nice spot where they can end up in that upper tier if things go well. Need to get, guys healthy, like Corleone missing time doesn't help matters, but I felt like there were some encouraging things after Sorsby got off to a little bit of a slow start. Granted, you played Nebraska right out of the gate, so it was a pretty tough challenge, but their offense was clicking a couple weeks ago against far inferior competition, so we'll see them on the other side of this return from bye, what all they look like. But, yeah, I don't get any sense that he's in any danger, and I don't really know how that would work for Cincinnati. It's not like you can just start wheeling and dealing and throwing away head coaches every couple of years. I mean, it's kind of like Wisconsin, Nebraska. Like, be careful what you wish for on the other side of just you're not in a place where you can just redo this thing because you demand we're in the playoff. We deserve to be back in the playoff again soon. They've got a lot of adjustments they've had to make these last 2 or 3 years that I think they're still dealing with.
Yeah, the thing about for a note about Solich is that they had started this slip because Texas and Oklahoma had surged to be a part of the elite of college football, which when Solich took the job in 98, Nebraska was still like on top of the universe. But at the same time, you could see them slipping away. This is not the Gundy's in that's the same spot. They're slipping away. They got to figure it out. They don't have anybody dynamic. They're going to go. That is like, for example, there's no DJ Lagway, even though this year's been disappointing that they have on their roster. Haas Haney, unfortunately, was hurt, but it happened and it's moved on. I don't know who's next, but Billy Napier with that schedule they have. And if that fan base turns on him, and some of them already have, that could happen faster than we think.
I think there's less that haven't than have.
Yeah.
In Gainesville right now, I think they were pretty much done with them last year, and then they got the little surge from Lagway. But yeah, I think that the top three are going to be really interesting to watch. 2 of those 3 have massive buyouts. Billy Napier at $21 million and Luke Fickell at $25 million. I don't think that, considering that they're in the SEC or Big Ten, that's going to slow those schools down if they decide to make the decision. But it is certainly a factor because none of them really want to pay that out.
Yeah.
So they're hoping for the best, but yeah, there's got to be changes probably made at Florida and Wisconsin for sure. Arkansas actually has it going offensively, but they're losing games because they turn the ball over. They're not very tightly coached, and I think that's what's going to undo Sam Pittman.
By the way, for Alan Tran, he trolls, he's a great part of what we do every day in the chat, but you can get into that. You could have a moniker. The Joey McGuire and Oklahoma State thing is just you're just being silly, and you're trying to piss off Kim Coulter, one or the other. But that's not even on the table. Not even on the table.
What are you even talking about?
No, in the chat room, I always like to read some of the things in the chat. Alan is saying that Joey McGuire would love to take the job at Oklahoma State.
Oh, yeah, that's just trolling.
No, it's trolling. All right. Injury at Utah. Hunter Andrews, saw him referred to by a couple of those guys who covered Utah as a Swiss Army knife, out for the year. Utah. I saw him listed as a tight end. Paul, you say he's actually more of a running back and again, jack of all trades. He's out for the year. That's unfortunate for them. even though he didn't put up a lot of numbers, he still was a part of the team they like. He's a fan favorite.
He's one of those guys that the fans want to see more of, because when he gets the ball, he's powerful and strong, and he's like 6'3", 225. I mean, they can move him all around the place, but I don't think this is not the worst injury news so far. This is more, they were hoping to see more of him down the line, but he had not. I mean, his 2 games of note were against Cal Poly and UCLA this season, and so while he showed some potential, I don't think it's one of those things that's devastating to the team just right now. But the fans wanted to see more of him down the line.
I mean, I'll slightly disagree. I think it's a big loss for them because he was such a Swiss Army knife. I mean, he could take carries as a running back. He could be an H-back and catch passes, blocker. So when you're an offense that doesn't have a whole lot of weapons and you've got guys playing both sides of the ball, you got guys playing multiple positions, to lose a guy who can do a little bit of a few different things and be super versatile, I think is definitely a loss for this Utah offense. I mean, we all know about Devin Dampier, but beyond that, I mean, you kind of saw last weekend. Now, granted, they're not going to play a lot of defense as good as Tech, but they don't have a lot of explosiveness on that offense, right? There's not like a lot of like playmakers. And I'm not saying that this guy is one of those, but I do think he gave them some ability to do some different things, and gave them some different looks and different ways to use him. So Kyle Whittingham seemed bummed about the loss.
Yeah, he said it, yeah.
He seemed like they seemed to believe that it was a pretty big loss for them, and I'll default to the head coach on that there. So, yeah, I think if you look at it just statistics, it's like watching just a box score and then thinking you've watched the game sometimes, that they don't tell the whole tale. So, it may not be like a dude who looks like he's 1,000-yard receiver, but he did a lot of really important things for Utah.
Here's the quote from Whittingham. It's a big loss for us. He did a lot of things for us offensively. We'll really miss him, but somebody's going to have to step up, pick up the slack. We're working on that this week, on what and who that guy's going to be. And also, Josh Furlong had this note that it was an in-game during the Texas Tech game, the injury for Hunter Andrews, and he's now out for the year for Utah.
Yeah, man, good news for him is he's a freshman. He's a Texas guy as well, so shout out to a fellow Texan there from Magnolia. But, he'll be back and better than ever, I'm sure. But Utah just feels like they probably can't get out of the negative news cycle at this point over the last few days. And leading into the game, you had some little bit of injury news. Coming out of the game, you got a little bit of injury news. And certainly your ego is a bit bruised and injured after the way Saturday went. But I think Utah, as we'll get into the Mojo rankings a little bit later, they're a team that everybody in the Big 12 fan base likes to jump on and punk because of the way that some of their fans rode into the league. Very boisterous and braggadocious and cocky.
Yeah.
And so those guys, I think, really, unfortunately, even though they were probably just trolling and trying to be goofy, like really labeled the entire fan base a certain type of way, which sucks for the Utah fans who are like, we have no problem with you. We would like to have stayed in the, but like, hey, we have no issue. And instead, and then when you've got the ammunition of your arch rival just fueling it as much as possible, like, yeah, they do suck. Yeah. Utah does suck. See what we have to deal with and what we've dealt with for decades. Then it just further grows that little back and forth. And so, they're not hearing the end of it, but I think that they're going to go and beat some other teams. They're not like by any means shutting it down the rest of the way. I still think they're a very formidable team. They got to get some things improved, but they did. Yeah. Let's remember, run into what could be like the far and away leader in the Big 12 when all is said and done, for all we know. I mean, we got to let some weeks play out, but we might come to a point, guys, later in the year when we go like, damn, Texas Tech's just way better than everybody else in this league.
Yeah, it's too early for that, but you're right. And 34-10 in Salt Lake City, pretty impressive. I don't care what Utah is, but a hell of a win. DJ Lagway, that is like yesterday. You got to be careful about social media. The Mateer injury was the big story other than Gundy, but that he was in a walking boot. Florida's Billy Napier saying that he just got stepped on the other day. He's got stepped on his foot. And by the way, I know of a high school player that's wearing a walking boot because he was stepped on in a game, and he's been at practice or whatever. I'm a different animal because of what his value is with DJ. But at least this appears as if it's not like, oh my God, he's out for another couple of 3 or 4 weeks. Well, that could also be an annoying injury.
That being said, it will be interesting to see when Florida comes back next week if he is actually completely healthy or not. and if Billy Napier, how much longer he has, because you still have some time to redshirt before that next game if you're DJ Lagway.
Is that what you think or what you'd love to see happen?
I don't.
It's clearly the latter. I mean,
is the smile on your face?
It can't be both.
Sure.
No, yeah.
But if it's leaning one way, it's definitely the latter.
You were enjoying that.
No, and look, here's the deal. DJ Lagway hasn't been anywhere near lethal this year. So but I just, I think that we have to watch things at Florida with Billy Napier unfold, because the clock is ticking louder on him as the days go by. And after October 1st is usually when some of these buyouts drop. Well, it's almost October 1st.
No, it is. It's just a game left. They have one. Well, they don't. Hey,
they've already played 4. They're 1-3.
That's right.
So
there we are.
There's some interesting things that I think are about to happen in Gainesville.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. If Lagway does that, then you would think he knows what's about to happen, and also saving a year, and who knows where he would be if that happens. Is he also contemplating moving? But that's way down the road and too much speculation.
I mean, that's definitely like some high-level message board speculation that has no signs of actually occurring at this point, even though that's what everybody feels like is going to happen. And, yeah, I mean, he's going to have to S or get off the pot here in the next week or two, right, if he's going to do that. And I really don't see any concrete signs that that's the case. You've got Napier, who's also talking in this press conference about these outside narratives and how they can't really – sit there and have to, address them, because they'd be doing it every day, having to shoot down On 3 said this, no, that's not true, and SI said this, and no, that's not true, and ESPN said what, and that's not true in this podcast. So if they were worried about having to stamp out all these rumors, they'd never have time to coach. And so I think ultimately it'll have to come to a head, and he's either going to play in a 5th game, and that whole rumor is over, or this injury is going to suddenly be a long-term thing and he shuts it down, and then, hey, there you go. But, yeah, we'll find out very soon. It's very interesting, though, that Urban Meyer apparently said today that he doesn't feel like Napier's going anywhere because of the buyout in particular. He said Billy Napier is caught in a firestorm. How does it end? Again, I don't see them making the change right now with $21 million owed, and that's going on pretty well-documented conversation with people throughout the country that there's – once again, where does it go? Where do you get that money from? Because the money's already distributed. The money's already accounted for. So that was when he was on his podcast that stole the name from Paul, I guess, Triple Option. But that was Meyer, and he said that's his feeling. So he's not reporting anything either, although I would imagine he's still very well connected with Florida. And, at the same time, I don't feel like any buyout's ever not feasible unless you're talking $100 million. Most universities, even stacked universities, aren't going to pay a buyout of that nature. But yeah, what are the levers that bring that down a little bit, or what's the fed up level of the Florida fan base where they're like, 21 million, well worth it. We'll pay that just to get some change in here. Kind of like Oklahoma State fans of they're not paying the buyout. The school is paying the buyout. The AD made that clear yesterday in his press conference, but you do get that. They're this close to being at the top level of being fed up, and whatever the buyout is, we'll take care of it because we got to make a change.
Look, and I saw Andy Staples, who is a Florida grad, post this and said, look, they were ready to do it last year and then didn't when the buyout was higher. So it was 2 weeks away from happening a year ago, and things have gotten worse, not better.
No, they haven't. All right. One other note in the SEC. Trinidad Chambliss, the young man who transferred to Ole Miss from Ferris State, which is that very, very good Division II football program, expected to start against LSU coming up. That game is at Ole Miss. It's in Oxford. His 3rd consecutive start. His last 2 starts, he has thrown for 660 yards, 3 touchdowns against Arkansas and Tulane, and also ran for 112 against Tulane. And so this will be interesting for a lot of people that don't know much about him. Trinidad Chambliss will get a start against Garrett Nussmeier and LSU.
Well, he was a dog at Ferris State. I mean, he absolutely was the best player on the FCS last year. And then here comes, Lane Kiffin in, going all avenues. That's the thing, and that's why I think he'll be maybe the top name that Florida fans want, because he will go all avenues. His high school, transfer portal, JUCO, looking at the best players in the FCS, all of those things. And he already had Austin Simmons set to go, but Austin Simmons is hurt. He brought in Trinidad Chambliss. They haven't missed a beat. Actually, I think they've been better on offense since he's been in there. They had that close win against Kentucky where Austin Simmons got hurt, and then Trinidad Chambliss has been great since then. He says there's no quarterback controversy, that Austin Simmons is the guy, but this is a great problem to have when you got two guys who can run your offense pretty flawlessly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly a wrinkle that LSU has to prepare for, but it's not like they didn't have any sign this could be the case, given that, yeah, he started the last couple of weeks, and Austin Simmons clearly not 100%. So I don't know how much this changes people's picks or not. I think that it's certainly a good scenario if you're Ole Miss, in that it's not one of these you lost your starting quarterback and you feel like there's this massive drop-off right after. Trinidad Chambliss has played very well. He's been very efficient. He's a dual-threat guy. Seems to have a lot of confidence, experience. So, yeah, I think they're actually one of those that's well-positioned with their backup quarterback to still be able to go win some games, even if Austin Simmons has to continue to miss time. So that's going to be a fun game. I can't wait. Ole Miss LSU, I think, is one of the more tighter games that we're going to get this weekend, in a weekend that's full of a bunch of great matchups. I think that one's as intriguing as just about any other.
Two things that we have on the show today: Craig's Big 12 Mojo Rankings, which will be interesting. There's going to be some changes, and I don't know that. I can't imagine it won't be. And then we'll have our banger picks, which includes LSU and also Ole Miss. Now, UT, in their first year in the SEC last year, lost to Georgia in the championship game. This year, who knows? I mean, there's a long way to go. Some teams haven't even played a conference game. But I looked at CJ Vogel covers UT, and I looked at this because of what was released yesterday. If you look at who they play now, the crossover games, but also who's in the schedule that would be a part of the teams that come and go, look at this. You have, of course, Ohio State early. Their conference will play Ole Miss. They'll play Florida. Who knows what they're going to be? Obviously, Mississippi State, Levy. Arkansas, that we knew that. Oklahoma, we knew that. Tennessee, LSU, Missouri, and A&M. Now, this is almost like a schedule that Oklahoma's had in the first 2 years, or Florida has had in the first 2 years. That doesn't mean they can't handle it. I bet the fans love this, but this is a different level than what they got the first couple of years.
And look, the SEC has this trump card to play on most of the other conferences of, all right, we're going to go to a 9-game schedule, and most of them will be pretty interesting matchups, at least name to name. I mean, every season's going to be different. But, yeah, I mean, and you know what? Texas got the nice little runway for their first 2 years, but you can't just keep doing that forever. I mean, and somebody was going to get punished, and Florida got really punished. I mean, Oklahoma – slightly less so, but still really punished. But yeah, it's crazy. The names are going to keep popping up on these schedules. I'm curious to see what Texas does for the out of conference continually.
No, they're not going to. I'm telling you, they're going to play teams locally, regionally, statewide. They will do that, but they're going to continue. I don't think they're going to change. Yeah. I think this is something the fan base would demand as well, that they're going to still play an alpha in non-conference.
Yeah, well, I had a second part to the sentence I was going to say. I'm curious to see what they're going to do, and then how the other teams in the conference counterbalance that. If they're, Texas, they're not afraid to play anybody, and that's why I respect how they schedule. There are other teams that are better caliber teams, I think, historically than Texas as far as winning championships, that don't feel that way schedule-wise, and I wish everybody would kind of just get on that same page.
Well, they have Ohio State next year, as you see there. And then after that, they've got Michigan in 27, Notre Dame home and away in 28 and 29. But after that, I mean, UTSA, UTEP, and Arizona State. So once they get to the 2030s, when, again, everything's probably going to open back up and be a whole different world, maybe not different as far as being unrecognizable, but different in that it's going to be something other than what we've got right now. It's just a matter of what that looks like. I think they're probably, like a lot of other people, not feeling like you have to schedule 17 years out anymore, but also nobody really knows with all of these scheduling changes of what they should or should not do in terms of big matchups for another game in the non-conference. So they've got them set up for the next 3-4 years, and then that 2030 mark will be like a new start-stop kind of point, I feel like, in college football, and we'll see what schedules look like beyond that. And there's obviously been a lot of talk about scheduling and strength of schedule, and we have another example of where that was talked about today with the old propagandist himself over on ESPN.
Yeah, I saw that.
Chief propagandist, Paul Feinbaum, talking about strength of schedule and basically levying threats towards the college playoff committee.
He said he wasn't because he has no – yeah, he's
well,
full
you know
of
what
shit.
that is? It's called gaslighting is what that's called. He thinks he's fooling people.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this is – besides who they might play in the non-con, I don't think that if people are playing big schools that Texas will be afraid to do that. They've always shown that they are willing to play those big teams. So, either way – as far as this goes, this is more of what you thought it would look like when they joined the SEC.
Yeah,
this is more of like, hey, it's a different animal than what you were playing in. This is a different league. This is what you thought the schedule might look like, because the one they have now, they couldn't have played out that some schools might be down like a Florida
Arkansas.
Or an Arkansas, although, I mean, they're kind of still where they have been for a while. But, yeah, this looks salty. I mean,
it's not, with all due respect, Missouri, I mean, they seem like they're going to be around for a while. But they do have Vanderbilt, which is better than anyone could have thought. But then the Mississippi State, even though they're 4-0, Kentucky, there's none of that on there. Mississippi State is the one, if you look at all of them, you're like, oh, okay. But all the other ones, they're all going to be good at some point. So Alabama, I just did this real quickly. Then we have Ari Temkin around the corner. Alabama's future includes Florida State, Ohio State, plus an Oklahoma State in 28, Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, Notre Dame. So they're set for the next few years.
When does that end?
Oh, not till this is all the way to 2030.
But yeah, that's my point. Is it's to 2030?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the next 3 or 4 years. No, absolutely. But the new schedule starts next year. But these are games that are ingrained. Tennessee, for example, Georgia Tech, and then they have Georgia Tech, West Virginia, and then Washington. Georgia, though. Louisville and Georgia Tech next year. Okay, that's not like it's not Alabama or it's not Michigan or Ohio State. They have Florida State, Louisville, and Georgia Tech in 27. They're always going to have Georgia Tech. Florida State 28, Clemson, Georgia Tech 29, and Clemson again in Georgia Tech, and Ohio State in 2030, 31, and Clemson in 32. So they've moved theirs on down the road. When we come back, Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio, his thoughts about Mike Gundy. Who would he think is the number one choice, or does he have one after the Mike Gundy news? And we'll also discuss that too. And the games coming up this weekend. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and then there's this used to be. As you get older, upper 30s, especially when you get in the 40s, there is a chance that you could become what is a statistic. 1 out of every 3 or 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're fortunate. It's not a problem. Your sex drive and your performance, your energy, all of that is still fine. And so you're fine. Just like some have hereditary when it comes to high blood pressure or cholesterol, things like that. And then, of course, some of that is inflicted. But Dr. Petty can help you out if you have any of the symptoms: energy, lack of sex drive, or lack of performance at pettycliniclowt.com. Contact him. Tell him I sent you. Tell him your story, and they will set you up to get your blood work, take care of that appointment for you. And if you get your results back, or when you get the results back and it's low, he can give you a program, an option, so you can become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's back 0% for 72 months on all 2025 Ram 1500 trucks during the Drive into Fall event at Allen Samuels in Waco. Check out a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab with a massive $16,000 off, or a 2025 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with $12,000 off, and both at 3.9 for 72 months. And if you drive a Ford, Toyota, or GM, get an extra $1,500 bonus cash. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Summer's heating up, but Bird Coach and Ford is freezing the prices.
Right now, get 0% APR for 48 months, 0 down, and no payments for 90 days. Cool off with us in our freezing showroom and catch a hot deal before summer's over. Whether it's an F-150, Explorer, or Escape, we've got the perfect deal waiting for you.
Whew. Texas weather can be crazy. Shop anytime inside our showroom or at bkford.com. Experience better at Bird Coach and Ford.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Yeah, car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Ari Temkin just texted me, Garrett. No, we can't. He wanted to push it back to 4. We're not going to wait till 4. We could possibly do 425. But if we do that, we're not going to blow out the Mojo rankings, and we don't want to do that when we are rushed.
Well,
so
we can move pick 'em up here.
You want to do that now? Want to do that now?
No.
All right, let's do that now. Tell me when you're ready, Brandon. This is 3 of us. Garrett, are you in this again? Okay. Craig, Paul, and myself are all a part of the pick'em. These are 5 games, normally bangers, and let's see how we go with this week.
Okay, here we go. Starting off, Auburn versus A&M. I've got the Aggies. I think that they kind of owe Auburn one. This should be – the last year was a great game, went in overtime. Probably be another good game again. I think the Aggies have a little bit too much of a diverse offense for Auburn, although they probably won't score as many points as they did in the last game that they played. But I do think I'm taking the Aggies in this one. Craig, who you got?
I'm taking Texas A&M. I mean, it's a Kyle Field for one. I think Auburn's been in a bunch of close fights here recently and proven that they're a pretty good football team, but I just don't think that they're on the level quite of A&M and good enough to also overcome home cooking as well with that Aggie crowd. So, yeah, give me the dynamic offense with Marcel Reed and all his fun new wide receiver toys. I do think they'll probably have a bit of a tough time running the football because Auburn's just good about defending that, but I do think they'll be able to find some plays in the passing game with Reed's legs as well. And then I think offensively, Auburn's kind of a one-trick pony in some cases, like with the Jackson Arnold sort of being a statue in the pocket / runner more than he is much of a passer. They can hit shots and whatnot, and they'll probably hit a couple shots in this game, but I like the Aggies defense versus Auburn's offense to be able to hold up pretty well.
One of the things I thought about, first of all, I think I would have taken A&M anyway after what I saw with their offense against Notre Dame. But Auburn played last week, and they had a knockdown, drag-out, emotional loss on the road. A&M didn't play, right? They had an off week, so they had a chance to breathe after that emotional win on the road against Notre Dame in South Bend. I tell you what, one of the things about A&M recently is that at times they had a pretty good defense, but they were so boring on offense with Jimbo not being able to get things done, the quarterback changes. This looks like, I don't know, a guy could go down or two, but they look very good on offense, very dynamic on offense, and just good enough in the run game. And so I'll take Texas A&M.
Yeah, they're deep at all the offensive skill positions, and that's good. TCU on the road at Arizona State. Look, I didn't think I would see the Sun Devils sitting at potentially 2 losses at this point in the season. I just like what I've seen from TCU a little bit more than I've seen from Arizona State. I know it's on the road. I just really like what TCU's got going on right now. They're that team that might, be the one that comes out of nowhere, which they've already done in the past to show it in the Big 12. So I'm going Horned Frogs. Even though it's in Tempe, I think it'll be a fantastic game. You've got 2 great quarterbacks in this game. I think TCU, though, has more weapons than Arizona State this year. Craig?
I'm taking TCU. I waffled on this game, and had we waited a day, I might be picking Arizona State. It's kind of like that sort of game to me, like Utah and Texas Tech was last week, where my initial pick was wrong and my pick by Friday was right. And I think this might be the case here, but we picking today. So today I'm going with TCU, and I'll either double down or let you know on about Friday if I'm feeling the same way. It does give me some pause that they're on the road here. But that was a big emotional win for Arizona State last week. Now, maybe that's something that propels them, but I just haven't been blown away by a team that everybody's like, yeah, put them right back on top of the Big 12 rankings heading into this year. I think it became apparent very quick that they're not just right back to being the best team in the league just because they won it last year. But I do think they're a very good team, and that was a very important win against Baylor. I do think this will be a great matchup of just individual talents and fun quarterback wide receiver combinations. I mean, you saw what Eric McAllister and Josh Hoover did together last week, and Levin and Tyson are like that every week, sort of a combination of guys. So I expect to see a bunch of big explosive plays in this game. I'm not sold on TCU's defense. The reason I don't put them quite on like the Texas Tech or even maybe an Iowa State level is I don't know that they're just as balanced just yet. But I do like their explosiveness, and I love their quarterback, and I'm rolling with the road team to go into Tempe and get a win here.
All right. 2 years ago, Arizona State. Now, I know Dillingham is new and did what he did. That team was fantastic to watch. They were 2-6 at home in 2023. 2-6 at home in 2023. Last year, they didn't lose a home game. They lost at Tech and also Cincinnati, and then eventually lost to Texas. But I did not look at the odds. I try not to do that. And I was surprised when I did. That says Arizona State is a 3 to 2.5 to 3 point favorite. Started out as a 1.5 point favorite. But I'm sticking with what I said earlier this week before I looked at that. And I'm going to say TCU. I just like where they are right now. And I think they were pushed by SMU. And I think that might get them into a nice little groove.
Well, I mean, TCU's had trouble running the football. That's a concern. And then Kavorian Barnes is out as well. So they're going to have to continue to just throw it around. I do think Arizona State's been susceptible to that. So that plays into their favor. But, yeah, if they're not having much success in the pass game, then it could get kind of plotting there for TCU potentially. Love CJ Fight and what he's doing for Arizona State.
Absolutely.
Really think a lot of Texas programs missed the mark on keeping him in the Lone Star State, but it was a great pickup for Kenny Dillingham. And, yeah, two terrific quarterback and wide receiver combinations in this game, as I said a few moments ago. So I don't think it's surprising that Arizona State's favored at home by 3 or 4 points. I don't think TCU's done anything that just blow your doors off and say, like, oh, yeah, they're clearly going to go on the road and beat Arizona State. I think they're pretty evenly matched teams that it's – more often than not, if these two teams played 10 times, I think it'd be a coin flip about who won the most games because I don't think there's much that separates them pound for pound.
No, not at all. Next up, let's go to the SEC. Alabama at Georgia. I picked the dogs in this one. I think this is going to be a shootout. Both offenses have a lot of weapons. After the first week, Alabama's found themselves. I just think Georgia's a little bit better right now than Bama, and it's between the hedges. So I'll go with the dogs. Craig?
Alabama's looked really good of late since the debacle to start the year, but give me Georgia between the hedges at home. I was really impressed by their moxie in that Tennessee game and just how they stood in the fight and then landed the big blows there at the end. That was very impressive. They're not a team that jumps off to me, even though they have named guys, especially if you follow recruiting, but it just doesn't feel like we're talking about individual Georgia players maybe as much as we are with some other programs, right? But they're just a damn good team. And, I think that the Gunner Stockton, Ty Simpson matchup will be really intriguing because both are very promising, but not like surefire, like no doubt quarterbacks at this point in their careers. But yeah, give me Georgia at home. This ought to be a slugfest, explosive. And I just feel like much like they did against Tennessee, the dogs will find a way to win at the end.
Alabama. Now I know Kirby Smart started turning Georgia around. What was it like 4 or 5 years ago when they started winning national titles, but they were knocking on the door. Alabama has beaten Georgia 9 of the last 11 games. In fact, actually, it might be 1-7, 9 of the last 10. The only time they lost was in the championship game, the national championship game. But I still think Georgia has been slowly getting better. They had the shootout last year, and so I'm going to take Georgia.
Yeah, one thing about that stat, it's very legit. Who was the head coach for Alabama during all those games?
It was Brian DeBose or whatever. No, Mike. I know that. No, that's why. But that's one of those things. Sometimes it's the coach or not. But yeah, there was a guy named Saban trolling the sidelines, roaming the sidelines. He might have been trolling them too.
I think when we're talking about trends for Alabama in particular, there is very much a pre and post on those trends, and that. Yes, there are things that Alabama can carry over and still win 10 games and be in the playoff every year and all of that. But there were a lot of marks that were set for a time period there over a couple decades that are very specific to a guy who was the head coach there.
What's weird is Saban arrived at Alabama, in 07 or so, what year it was? They lost. Then he won 7 in a row, lost that championship game in 2021, and then won the last 2. So it's weird. Those two teams don't play each other very often, even though they're right in the middle of it, been in the conference together for a long, long time. Until 2000 and, they went 7 years without playing from 95 to 2002. And, of course, Georgia and Alabama very rarely have too many ups and downs, but I would have thought they would have played more than that.
Yeah, this ought to be a hell of a game. It's a heavyweight fight, both with a lot to prove, I think, and both will take a massive step forward in the playoff. I do think that Georgia has some concerns going into this game that you definitely have to be on upset watch, not just the name Alabama, but specific concerns about your defense, for example, and knowing that the talent that Alabama is going to bring in there, they're going to have to play really sharp. Or, there's a great certainty that it would not be a shock for Alabama to roll, no pun intended, into Athens and win this game.
Yeah, especially after last year, because remember, they were a little bit shaky early, and then this was a great game. They had a huge lead, and I'm like, what in the world? Georgia came back, and then Alabama won it at the end.
Yeah.
One note real quick. Go ahead. I'll put this up later. Go ahead.
Okay. Let's get into the Big Ten. Oregon at Penn State. It's a whiteout.
Looks like it snows when they do that.
Yeah,
at Penn State.
it's a really cool thing that they do, and I probably should have taken Penn State here. I'm just not a believer yet until I see it. Until I see them win one of these big games. Oregon's super athletic. These teams are very evenly matched. Jim Knowles, now the DC there at Penn State. I think you're going to see a ton of different looks than you've seen from them before. I'm leaning towards landing here over Penn State. So I'm going to say the Ducks. This is the one I feel the least good about of all my picks this week.
I'm going the Ducks as well, and it doesn't feel right to be picking them walking into the snowstorm they're going to be walking into, but just went with the hunch here. I love what Dante Moore's done. Not as experienced, obviously, as Drew Aller, and I don't know if that plays into this game at all, given just the heat of enemy territory that you're rolling into, but there's a lot to like about what we've seen from Oregon, just how explosive, efficient, and just all-around talented they are. Maybe don't have as much depth in some places as you would like, so health, if suddenly there's a couple injuries, that could kind of change the trajectory of this game. So hopefully everybody's as fully healthy as possible. But, there's a lot to like about both squads. Penn State is a choice that I totally understand, but I just have a hunch with Oregon that they're going to be able to go in there and not blow out Penn State by any means. I just think they're going to find a way to win. I'm not fully sold on Penn State just yet. As far as I know, that probably sounds weird. Maybe I shouldn't phrase it that way. They are a very, very good team. They're not a no doubter to me, and so I'm rolling with Oregon.
Do you know that they had up until last year, Oregon? Remember, they ended up winning the Big Ten championship with that game. They hadn't played in 30 years because they different conferences, but there was a 94 Rose Bowl when Penn State won the game, but then did not win the national title. Nebraska got the nod. They've only played 5 times in their history, which is not a surprise, coast to coast and not in the same conference, but I would have thought they would have played a couple other times, at least in a bowl game or two. Here's what I think of. I close my eyes, I see Oregon with speed everywhere. I close my eyes with Penn State, which is not fair, and I see those black cleats, and it makes them look like they're not as fast. But I like what they've done. I like the way they've gotten a little bit better. I am worried about Franklin in big games, But last year, I thought they really did have a nice run, and I think they're ready to carry it over. I'm going to take Penn State here because the game's in front of 100-some thousand at home, and I just think that might give them just enough of an edge in this one.
All right, last one. LSU at Ole Miss. Garrett is decked out in LSU garb today. I picked the Tigers here because they've got the better defense, but I'm gonna pick the Tigers. I think that Trinidad Chamble's gonna be fun to watch. He has not seen a defense like this yet. I don't think. And to give credit to Brian Kelly a little bit, sometimes your offense and defense aren't going to really match each other as far as LSU's defense is so far ahead of what it's been. The offense might have regressed a little bit. I think the offense will actually eventually get there and start scoring some more points, maybe even this week, because Ole Miss's defense is good, not great. But I'm taking LSU because they can make stops whenever they kind of want to. So that's why I'm going with the Tigers here.
I thought Garrett said that their defense sucked.
Not this year.
All right.
Yeah, this year they're better, but I think Ole Miss is still plenty explosive offensively. And Trinidad Chambliss, there's not been much, if any, drop off there. I'm going Ole Miss. I'm going a hot team at home. I think the Chambliss has been good enough to feel like you're not having this massive change in the lineup, whereas if it was Austin Simmons and you're 7-10 points better type of a thing, I think, like we said a little while ago, that Ole Miss probably has one of the better quarterbacks room situations in the country. So yeah, give me the hot-handed Chambliss. LSU's a very good team, but road atmosphere factors into this one for me. And I think that LSU's offense has been very up and down. I think that for all the talk about Nussmeier last week, he was very efficient, but he's kind of been good against bad teams and sort of average against good teams. So that plays into my decision as well. Can LSU get the run game going? Like I just think, home field kind of tips the scales in Ole Miss's favor for me right now, and they just look like a more complete team when I've watched them.
Man, they do score a ton. And these two, LSU has dominated this series over the years. 65 wins, 38 losses, 3 ties. They won last year. I have them winning. And honestly, I really I've watched Trinidad Chambliss and, of course, the Ferris State story and all that and what he's done. But I still think, okay, you have Nussmeier and Chambliss. And if I'm wrong, good for Trinidad Chambliss and Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. But I struggled with this one more than any game. And I know Oregon, Penn State was tough for me. I just said, no, LSU's been tested already twice. And so I'm going to take the Tigers at Ole Miss. And do you know over the last 5 years, Ole Miss has won 30 games at home and LSU's won 29. So it's not like they haven't been successful. They've been really good too.
Yeah. So 2 of us are friends with Garrett this week and 1 of us isn't. So
yeah, I like fighting with him.
It's fine. Well, you're friends. We're friends this week. The 3 of us and Ian Craig are at odds.
I like fighting with him. I'm changing my pick.
No, I can't. Once there's a graphic, you can't change it. That's the law. Here's the records. I am woefully behind at 9 and 11 this year. That first week. In the second, well, actually, it's not the first week that killed me because Smokey's gained ground and now tied with Craig. It's the second week that really killed me that I haven't been able to. But I just got to keep picking what I'm picking and hopefully getting them right and not chopping wood away.
Keep chopping wood. There you go. Right, it's part of the process, as Matt Rowe always says.
13 and 7 over there on that side of the studio. 9 and 11 over here. So.
We only have 2 different picks, so not much can
5
change.
Games.
I know, but I'm talking about out of all of us. Out of 15 picks, there's only 2 different ones, with me picking Penn State and you taking Ole Miss. So not much is going to change. Either we end up tied or there's a chance there's a separation.
So which game do y'all feel the worst about?
Oregon and Penn State.
I actually feel the worst about TCU, Arizona State for some reason.
Hey, Vegas has a bunch of buildings that are really, really nice for a reason, right? And they have them picked. And I got to admit, I thought they'd be favored.
I mean, some of it
but they are at home.
Some of it isn't just because they predict the sports well. It's because
they get you to buy into it.
The mob strong-armed them into doing that years ago in the 40s. So, there's some things that are ingrained. But, yes, you're right. They know what they're doing. But
they also do it to make you want to jump on a pick, too. So, there we are. I want to say one more college football note, then we break and come back with Ari Temkin. Craig's Mojo, Big 12 Mojo Rankings, been a hit. He'll do that at the bottom of the hour. So I'm watching the game, and CBS had the Michigan game with Nebraska. We know what happened. Michigan was better. But Brad Nessler doing that game, I've heard him, but you have different conferences and networks, etc. Man, he's damn good at what he does. There's no overhype. There's no trying to make sure you be who everyone says you're supposed to be. Solid as a rock. I wanted to throw that in there for the broadcast that he did for the Michigan-Nebraska game. I enjoyed that thoroughly.
Yeah, he's a
pro's pro, man.
And, love his voice, and always feel like it's a big game when you hear certain voices, and certainly that's the case. And I guess it's kind of a difference of opinion. I mean, there's guys who you think would kind of universally be loved that have their pack of people who really don't like them. So I'm sure Brad Nessler has some haters, but I'm also not somebody that also maybe has the best opinion on it, because I don't sit there and analyze announcers all that much like some seem to do, where it's a big part of their viewing experience. It's more background to me. It's not like really the lifeblood of it like it is for some people watching along with it. But I have enjoyed Brad Nessler, and it's one of those voices that I hear. I'm like, oh, college football's on. Yeah.
And it was nice to have a team that I like, that intro that CBS Sports does such a great job with. When we come back, Ari Temkin, he'll be next on the Big 12, but also of course, the news on Mike Gundy and what does that mean next for Oklahoma State. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco, where they have coming up a lunch and dinner, brunch, etc. You want a nice breakfast after church on Sunday. You want dinner tonight. Friday night, they always have something that has some sort of seafood flavor, and I love shrimp. I could eat any kind of shrimp, maybe on anything, and they always have such great food. Of course, the amenities of being a part of the club, also being a part of Club Corps, which also gives you chances to play with better rates and green fees around the country at golf courses. But it is inside McLean Stadium off this week. They've had a busy start with that concert, Auburn, and then last week, Arizona State. Back, of course, they'll host the game with Kansas State inside the stadium. The Baylor Club, tell them 365 Sports sent you. Amenities are fantastic. The food, the chefs, and everything else you could want when it comes to meeting, luncheons, and banquets inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
Big savings are waiting at Allen Samuels in Waco. Drive off in a 2025 Jeep Wrangler Sport for just $29,990, or grab a new Jeep Compass Latitude for only $26,700. The road and trails are calling. And wrap up your summer in style with the Make This the Summer event at Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions, IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
So yesterday we had Sam Kahn on because Joey McGuire is going to join us tomorrow at 3:30, and Sam was like, I'll flip, and he was on yesterday. Ari wanted to be on Wednesday because he's normally Tuesday. And then it was Wednesday at 3:40. And now it's Wednesday at 4. Who are you on the phone with, young man?
We had a Lance Leipold interview we were recording. And yesterday was Rosh Hashanah. So Lashana Tova to your audience.
There you go with that. I remember, I always thought we couldn't get Leipold like the first year or two. But, man, we've had him, and we love that guy. He is fantastic to talk to. Fantastic to talk to. Mike Gundy's gone. Two things, your thoughts, and then also, in your opinion, who's next?
Yeah. I think, it's shocking from the standpoint of, here's a guy that built an incredible legacy, an incredible resume. I mean, he is Oklahoma State football. And so I think the shocking part is that he really wasn't able to coach the remainder of the season, that he was fired midseason. But I think it's completely justified. There's a couple of things here. Number one, it wasn't enough that you lost by 66 to Oregon, but you backed that up by losing to Tulsa at home for the first time since 1951 and the first time overall since 1998. I think the comments made by Mike Gundy before the Oregon game pissed everybody off. I think it pissed off Oregon. It pissed off Oklahoma State. So he did himself no favors. So, if you're looking to mark progress for this program, then you're seeing a program move backwards. And so because of that, I think you don't have a choice here. There's a famous saying, whatever must happen eventually must happen now. And I tend to agree with it when it comes to Gundy. Should he have been given the full season? I think with the way things started, no. There's no way you could. It's incomprehensible. This team is so bad. They didn't lose to Tulsa on flukes. They lost to Tulsa because they were the worst team. Tulsa had more talent than them. That can't happen. And so for whatever reason, they've got to fix it. And, I'm hopeful that they will. But yeah, it's pretty incredible how this thing deteriorated so quickly for Oklahoma State, especially when you consider that they were just playing in a Big 12 championship game, a few years ago and came up a yard shy of winning a Big 12 championship against Baylor, 4 or 5 years ago. So, things can change quickly. The talent on this roster was very low. I think that's obvious, and that's a testament to how badly they looked in that Tulsa game. And yeah, so I agree with the move to fire him in season.
Ari, what kind of direction do you think they need to go in next as far as a coach? And also, I think the money thing ticked off Oklahoma State people because it's not like they don't have money. He just has kind of refused to spend it like other people too.
Yeah, and I think, part of the reason that he was fired in season is because he alienated a lot of the money. And, it's important, to listen to the money at this point in time. So, it was a combination of not wanting to spend the money. And then, when you had a willingness to spend the money, it might have been too late or you didn't know how to spend it. I think that was very well stated by Chad Weiberg in his comments yesterday in meeting with the media. The reason they didn't fire him before the start of this year, which some people might wonder, was because they felt like they put their best foot forward. They had, poured some resources monetarily into the program and thought they would reap some of the benefits of it. And this program has clearly taken another step backwards. I mean, this team does not resemble anything close to a team that looks like they can win and compete in Big 12 games. I mean, they look through the first 3 weeks like Kansas football for a decade, which I hate to use that as the barometer, but yeah, I mean, they're not competitive and weren't competitive, Kansas, against FBS opponents, let alone FCS opponents, which they did blow out a UT Martin team that's not very good. But I mean, at this point, I don't know how you even look at them and think that they can win a Big 12 game. With all that being said, though, yeah, I mean, look, it's funny. There's 2 new coaches in the Big 12 who, like Gundy, all they do is complain about NIL. And I just, I think, like, I'm done hearing complaints from coaches about it. Like, it's here. It's not going anywhere. Whether you like it or not, doesn't matter. Whether you think it's trash or unregulated, none of that matters. You got to make chicken salad out of this chicken bleep. And so, I mean, you hear Kenny Dillingham's approach. You hear Matt Campbell's approach. I mean, Matt Campbell doesn't have a ton of resources and money. And yet, despite that, they still are recruiting at a high level. They bring in a lot of talent. Just find a strategy that works and go with it and stop complaining about the money or whatever else, because while you're complaining, the rest of the league is running circles around you. I mean, look, I think Zach Robinson's the obvious name here. I'm sure Oklahoma State is aware that they can hire non-former quarterbacks of Oklahoma State in order to run their program, but he does seem like the perfect fit at the perfect time. I think you do have to have some interviews outside the circle. I think Colin Klein is another guy you probably want to look at. He was a really good offensive coordinator. Look at where K-State is now in terms of their offensive coordination since Colin Klein left. I mean, look at how good Avery Johnson looked with Colin Klein. Look at how bad he looks now, and look at how bad K-State looks overall. So, and then on the other side of that, look at how good Texas A&M has looked. And this is a program that, if you watch the Notre Dame game, like 9 times out of 10, Texas A&M has lost those games in their history. So, Colin Klein's a guy I'd give a long look to. I think you probably look at GJ Kenny. I mean, I've got a lot of young former Texas area quarterbacks. Colin Klein's not in that category, but we're looking at like former Big 12 quarterbacks. I think there's a type there. I think there's a element of they have an understanding of the current landscape that's really important today. I think there's a willingness to work and be creative. I think these are all things you need to be able to do in modern college football. And these are things that, we're still hearing Rich Rod complain about this. We're still hearing Scott Frost complain about this. We're still hearing Mike Gundy complain about this. But aside from those 3, everybody else in the Big 12 seems to be, on board, moving forward, strategy-wise, and I think the talent in those teams and those programs is a reflection of that.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. I'm fascinated to see what they do. It does feel like a piece of the Big 12 I grew up watching, like a whole chapter's now over, right, of just the Stoopses and the Snyders and the Mac Browns and – I mean, all these different characters, and Gundy was kind of like the last holdout, and it just feels like the old Big 12 is kind of officially, out in the rearview mirror now.
That's a great point. Yeah, I mean, it is the end of an era. Look, both things can be true. They've been playing football at Oklahoma State since 1914. They have 11 10-win seasons in that history. 10 of those came with Mike Gundy at quarterback or coach. He is Oklahoma State football, without a doubt. And 170 and 90. I mean, it's incredible. It's foundational. But it reached a point where, I said on my show in the week leading up to the Tulsa game, like, I think Mike Gundy will get the rest of the season, but if he loses to Tulsa, all bets are off. And, it's one thing, like, Mac Brown owned the room and people loved him. And so he was fired when he was fired because he still had a lot of people in his corner. Tom Herman is 180 degrees away from that. I think Gundy too, where it's like he started alienating people in the room, and suddenly when things start to go south, you've got nobody in your corner. Yeah. And I think that was where Gundy ended up. But again, both of these things can be true. The other thing I'll say to that point is, and I think it's very well said in terms of like the Big 12 we grew up and have been around for a long time. The Big 12 right now is at a point where, like, we've got coaches that are either outgoing or that are currently here that are their programs. I mean, Matt Campbell, just historically, look at Iowa State and what they've done under Matt Campbell. So he's in the midst of, an incredible run right now that is redefining the expectations for Iowa State football. I mean, Iowa State is now the premier program in the state of Iowa in terms of college football. Iowa is a doormat and a joke. Iowa State is the premier program. How did that happen? Lance Leipold, you could argue, with Mark Mangino's tenure notwithstanding, that what he's built at Kansas, is the best that in terms of long sustained build that we've ever seen with Kansas. This is a program set up for the future. And who knows if Wisconsin comes calling this offseason, if he pushes them out again, and I think if there's one program he'd leave Kansas for, it might be Wisconsin, but I'm not sure he would. So I think you're absolutely right about Gundy, but we're also sort of in the midst of the heyday of some of these incredible coaches that have built up programs in a way that they've never had success before like this.
Yeah, it's fun. It's exciting. It's like bittersweet, I know, for Oklahoma State fans, but it's definitely exciting that there's going to be some new blood and who that next guy will be. I'm looking forward to it. All right, so we spent so much time, as I'm sure you guys did on your shows and on our shows and every Big 12 show, talking Texas Tech and Utah last week and giving our predictions and our thoughts. And then the game was played, and man, on the other side of that, Texas Tech obviously looks really, really good. And Utah's kind of got, I guess, maybe a little bit more of a look in the mirror after that one. How do you feel about just what stands out to you most coming out of that game for one side or the other? But obviously Utah, has some things that they need to improve.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess ultimately it remains to be seen what this outcome tells us. I mean, I think it tells us that Texas Tech is probably better than we thought, which says a lot. I mean, going into this game, we knew from a talent perspective that Texas Tech was just so far and away better than what they had been talent-wise, just based on their too deep in their depth chart, where guys that were starting and playing crucial roles along their defensive line, we're only now seeing time in mop-up duty. On the Utah side, this is sort of what I cautioned with Utah this season. And look, I think Devin Dampier is probably a better quarterback than what he showed, and that Texas Tech's defense is probably considerably better than what we expected. But I figured that their ceiling was not to win a Big 12 championship, because at some point they were going to play a defense that forced Devin Dampier to have to make plays down the field with his arm, and he couldn't. So I'm not surprised by this. I guess I'm surprised that it happened so early and that it shows us how good Texas Tech's defense is. But you've got to be able to be multifaceted. And the idea here of we can just run over teams and we're just that good up front, we're just going to maul teams. Maybe that'll be the case for the rest of their Big 12 schedule, but I'm just not sure of that. I think they've got, Devin Dampier put up some decent numbers at New Mexico, but had a lot of interceptions. And what that tells me is not only is he, putting the ball in harm's way, but he's just not a consistent downfield thrower. And so again, I cautioned that their ceiling is, if teams force them to in a situation where they have to throw and complete passes consistently down the field, can they do it? I don't want to put it all on Devin Dampier. They've been without major weapons on the outside for quite some time. So while they've got some guys, what we're seeing mostly throughout the course of the year, some of their best offensive weapons happen to be their best defensive players. Smith Stoden is a guy that we're used to seeing on defense. And he, he's a guy that's not playing more significant snaps on offense because they just don't have playmakers. So, I kind of think Utah was a little bit overrated. And I kind of think Texas Tech's a little bit better than we thought. Now, with that being said, everybody picked Utah to win this game. Everybody nationally picked Utah to win this game. Why? Well, because Utah has a brand and they were really good in the Pac-12, and everybody just expected them to pick up where they left off from leaving the Pac-12. And now here they are struggling in the Big 12. Meanwhile, Texas Tech, nobody knows what to do with them. Nobody knows how good they are. And so a team that was in the top 25 the previous week at Utah that everybody picked to win the game, then Texas Tech wins the game, wins it convincingly, and they don't find themselves in the top 10 because suddenly the win's not any good because Utah dropped out of the top 25. What? It's crazy. The perception of the Big 12 just continues this weird cycle of, well, you haven't beat anybody. Yeah, but before the game, everybody thought Utah was that team. Everybody thought Utah was that good. Everybody thought Utah was the favorite of the Big 12 or the best of the Big. What happened? So it's just crazy, big picture wise, how before the game kicked off, that would have been a huge win for Texas Tech. After the game ends, though, it's oh, Texas Tech hasn't beaten anybody. Utah's not good. Remember, they're not even in the top 25 because immediately after losing that game, Utah found itself outside the top 25. I wish Notre Dame could be given that same treatment.
They should have only lost by 52 like Illinois did. They could have hung in the top 25.
I mean, it's insane. And it's like every move from the AP, and I wish I could give them this credit for like being as smart as this, but it feels like every move is a precursor to the next move. So like if you keep Notre Dame ranked in the top 25 and they're just hanging around and they feast up on bad teams, suddenly they're just going to continue to climb the rankings despite being 1-2 and having no good wins. And then you look at the rest of their schedule and it's like, who else do they play? USC? That's about it in terms of good games across their schedule. Like, but it's the method to the madness of the AP voting. It's the secret sauce, if you will, that allows for certain teams that should drop more than they do to not drop that much, so that those wins from the opposition, namely in the SEC, still look really good because they're still ranked wins. And Notre Dame is very much front and center in that boat. And for the Big 12, it's like the narrative and the perception that the league is bad. Well, before the game, everybody said Utah was good. Everybody on College Game Day picked Utah. Everybody. Well, I don't understand what happened.
Not everybody.
Well, no, but like
on College Game Day, I'm saying.
I know. I just had a better feeling about it than most people.
Yeah, I don't walk away like from a game, like a team like Utah losing one game doesn't make me think they all of a sudden like, oh, well, they weren't that good in the first place. I walked away from that game looking and going, Texas Tech is even better than I thought. And they've now taken the first step into proving that. Like, two things can be true. Both teams can be good, and one team could just be better, especially that day. And that's all we know that happened right now, because that's all the evidence that we have. We do too much prediction based on this one game and not looking at it because like, oh, well, let's take Utah out of it because they dared lose to Texas Tech. Well, hey, maybe Texas Tech is just that damn good, and they did all that work on their roster in the offseason, and it wasn't just grabbing from the portal with like a net. Like, they actually thought about who's going to help us legitimately. Let's spend this money well, and it's working out so far.
Yeah, and you know, kind of the 2 points, the one first made by Smokey and then Paul, like Smokey, I mean, I was alluding to the national perspective.
No, I know you were.
I picked Texas Tech to win and cover. But it's the people that don't watch the Big 12 here that have the greatest influence on the conference. That's the part that's troubling. And that's where when I'm saying like everybody picked Utah, I'm talking about everybody that, you know, that matters from a national landscape in college football that is not watching the Big 12. And, you know, again, it's just like, well, I've seen, you know, Texas Tech is their great offense and no defense. And Utah, man, they were so good in the Pac-12. And it's like, you know, watch the games now. Because if you'd watched Texas Tech the first 3 weeks, you might have said, well, they haven't played anybody, but they're still doing things in those games that you just don't expect to see. And from Utah, you know, they struggled to have consistent downfield passing. So these are things we shouldn't have been surprised by, but we being the more like network national side of things, because we're not watching the games. They're not watching the games. And Paul, your point, like 100% agree. Like both things can and probably are true. Utah's probably not as good as we thought after the first 3 weeks, and Texas Tech's probably not nearly as good as we thought. They're much better. But that's why I'm saying like, Utah is so bad now that they dropped out of the top 25 entirely. So now Texas Tech's win doesn't look as good because it's not against a ranked opponent. But before the game, it was against a ranked opponent. It was a top 20 matchup. In fact, Bill Connolly's SP Plus had it as a top 15 matchup. Both teams ranked in the top, I think it was top 13. So, you know, Bill Connolly's watching the games. He's evaluating these teams because he knows what he's looking at. I think a lot of these other people that cover this sport nationally aren't watching the games, have no idea. And they're the ones that are shaping the narratives, voting on the Associated Press top 25 poll, and having their opinion heard when it comes to the college football playoff.
You know, one of the things, and I've always thought this, and it's kind of come out recently because you have people who will come out and say, here's like the woman who had Florida still in her top 25 a couple weeks ago. But she, like, having beat writers vote on this is maybe not the best thing, because beat writers, you spend your whole day at one place. And so you can't really watch, like you can follow along. It's easy to follow along, but you are engaged in all the things that you're working on for that one game. So if I'm an AP voter and I'm assigned to Cincinnati and Kansas this week, then I'm in Lawrence. I'm watching that game. I'm doing all this. I'm going to see bits and pieces of other things, but I'm not going to be able to sit down and watch full games. Like Ari, I didn't go to the Baylor game this last week. I watched UTV. I watched 18 football games. Like I watched as much as I have. I still don't even know if I should have I would have an AP vote, because it's a harder thing than just being able to go like, okay, let me look and see what I think I know about these teams.
Yeah. And I would replace the word maybe with definitely. Beat writers are not the people that should be voting on this. I mean, this is not 1999. I mean, this is 2025. Like, let's just do this for the sake of doing it. I'm not trying to bury beat reporters, but like, anybody picked up a newspaper recently? I mean, it's extremely thin and only getting thinner, and is more aggregated content than you can find on most websites. I would say having a decent lay of the land, and this isn't just blowing smoke, that there's no better person that's better sourced on Baylor sports than David Smoak. Is Smokey a beat writer for the local paper? Chad Brendel in Cincinnati. He's not a writer for the Cincinnati Enquirer. He owns Bearcat Journal. I think he's as well sourced as anybody. Mm-hmm. To me, that's indicative of like, what kind of people do you want voting on this? Because I mean, Smokey is, because I think traditionally, like, yeah, those beat reporters, newspaper beat reporters, are the most plugged into what was happening within those teams, and then they'd have a better lay of the land. I would argue now, 247 operators, rivals operators, well outpace the beat reporters. Why? Because they're the ones that are running the businesses that are making more money than they would if they were beat reporters for a newspaper. That's it.
Yeah. Look, hey, you don't have to. I would love to have an AP vote, or have a vote. I mean, and again, I think it just needs to be deeper. I felt this about one of the things I like about the way that Smokey approaches his Heisman vote is that he doesn't just go like, give me quarterbacks. Like, that's important. I think there's a lot of people who are like, just give me the best quarterback on the best team. It doesn't matter. Or the quarterback on the best team. It doesn't matter if he's not even the best player on his own team. Those are the things that, like, I think need to be just changed and looked at when we're talking about all of these things.
Yeah. And look, I mean, the reason I brought up like the idea of who's the most well-sourced, person on the beat, has the most connections, because those are the people that are willing to have these conversations, not just with the people that help them break news on Baylor or Cincinnati in the two examples that I gave, but like on all of these things. Right. So like, if you're well-sourced, you've got good connections to a university, then chances are you've also well-sourced and got good connections to other universities that give you good insights into a lot of other teams. And that, I think, is, again, like, historically, that's been the beat reporters for newspapers. I don't think it is anymore. And so it's, the AP is as outdated as the newspaper industry is. And I'm not trying to like bury the newspaper industry, because there's still a lot of great newspaper writers. I mean, Barry Trammell is a legend. He's still writing for the Tulsa World now after leaving the Oklahoman. Like, this is not killing newspaper writers. It's just simply saying, like, most of the people voting on this have shown that they're not well sourced, that they don't know who to talk to. There's a guy in Baton Rouge, Koki something or other, that, like, just look at his ballot every week. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. This dude, Notre Dame, where he has them, like, it's a joke. So, I mean, the sourcing thing makes sense to me, because it just means you're willing to have conversations with people that help you expand your ideas just outside of what you're thinking about. You're talking to the right people, and you've got connections to other of the right people. I think we used to live in a world where that was, newspaper writers. That's not the case anymore. And so, yeah, I mean, the problem with this whole conversation is the fact that the AP Top 25 matters this much. It shouldn't. It should just be an aesthetic, like something we talk about, and it's good fodder, but doesn't really matter. The issue is there's a historical perspective here and context that shows that it matters too much in terms of the college football playoff rankings. And I've spoken to, the chair of the college football playoff, and he's saying that that's not, that the AP poll isn't part of it, but it is. I have eyes and a brain to process what I'm seeing with my eyes. You can't lie to me. And I'm not saying that the executive director of the college football playoff is lying to me. I'm saying I'm sure the criteria says they don't, but they do. So the issue here is, one, if the AP matters so much, which it does, then two, we need to figure out a way to make the AP make more sense because currently it doesn't.
Ari, as far as games this weekend go, there's a lot of like toss-up games. I mean, there's some games like Baylor, Oklahoma State, Utah, West Virginia that I don't think you sweat too much. You never know, obviously, but there's a few that could maybe get interesting. But really, the one that looks like the most ripe for some chaos one way or the other would be TCU, Arizona State on a Friday night in Tempe. How are you feeling about that game?
Yeah, and it's a great point, Craig. I mean, I think this weekend is really interesting because it's like the under the radar weekend in the Big 12. Because I think aside from that game, which is definitely not under the radar, but maybe more, it is to a degree for the people that watch the games like us, it's not going to be under the radar. It's the one that stares at you. I think just real quickly, Cincinnati, Kansas is a very interesting game. We still don't know a ton about Cincinnati, but they've looked good and potentially a surprise team of the Big 12 to start. And then, how good is Kansas? So I think that's a really good litmus test for like who's a legit contender in the Big 12 versus who's probably just a middle of the pack team. And then Arizona and Iowa State. And this is like, if you're one of those that says the Big 12 needs to have more consistency at the top, you need to be rooting for Iowa State because Arizona has the makings of being a team that's a major surprise team in the Big 12 this year. So Arizona wins and suddenly it's back to being a league of parity. Iowa State wins and it's like, maybe something's completely different here because Arizona has looked really good so far this year. They've got a really good running game. They've got a solid defense. So, if Arizona wins, and again, it's just one game, it will be the second Big 12 game for Iowa State, but the first for Arizona. I know they played K-State, but that was not a Big 12 game. So, like, will it really mean a ton in terms of, like, who can win the conference? No. But in terms of that national perspective, like, if Arizona goes and beats Iowa State names, it'll be like, here we go again, the Big 12, League of Parity versus Iowa State winning that game. It'll be like, oh, that's interesting. And then in terms of the game you asked about, it's very intriguing to me. Don't get why Arizona State is not ranked. Obviously losing to Mississippi State is one thing. I think Mississippi State looks considerably better than they looked last year. But I mean, TCU, their running game is really good. Their defense looks dramatically improved and their downfield pass attack. I mean, that game last week was something. They found themselves down late and found Eric McAllister down on third downs twice for 2 consecutive long touchdowns that, put the game in TCU's favor. McAllister is a stud, like Hoover's a stud. So that was their calling card last year, like great passing offense. And they just didn't have anything else. They had no running game and no defense. It looks like they're more of a complete team. I love TCU going into the season. I just thought they've got one of the toughest schedules of the Big 12. And that's the reason I didn't pick them. But yeah, they look to be as complete of a team as there is the Big 12. TCU does. And this would be a good test because it's a kind of a clash of styles. Like obviously Jordan Tyson gives them a big play weapon, but ultimately they want to, they want long sustained drives. They want to run the football and they've been pretty 50-50 in terms of their pass run splits. I think if TCU hits some big plays and starts to build a big lead, suddenly you take them out of their comfort zone.
Ari, great to see you again. Thank you for being a part of the show. Look forward to the Lance Leipold interview. Enjoy the rest of the week. The weekend too. We'll talk to you Tuesday.
You're the best, Smokey. Take care, brother.
Thank you, you too. And thanks for the nice comments. We appreciate it. Ari Temkin, Big 12 Radio, with us on 365 Sports. We're going to go straight into Brandon, Garrett, and Andrew. The Big 12, Mojo Rankings. You ready? We can take a break. What do you want to do, Craig?
I'd like to take a break just to kind of
We'll be back with the Big 12 Mojo Rankings. That's next, and this is 365 Sports. So earlier today, I went to the gym to work out. What I did today, and I do this on Wednesdays, a pretty light workout for me. I can't really jog much, if at all, but I'm getting better with the treatment I'm getting on my back and my hip. So I just went out and I walked, and sometimes I'll do the same area. But today I actually went out on Lakeshore Drive, which is a little bit left outside the entrance, and then walked up this big, steep road called College Drive. It goes into McLennan Community College. So I could test myself a little bit by at least having an incline. And my God, that hill is an incline. And I used to run it. Now I walk it. And then as I get to an area where I can go slightly down the hill, I might just pick up the pace a little bit. And I came back inside. I was sweating. I was soaking wet. Got back. And it wasn't because of the huge rainstorm that came in, but it was just nice to be outside, breath of fresh air, and also getting some sweat and also a little cardio. It really makes me feel good. And that's it. It was for like 55 minutes. It wasn't a long workout. It wasn't just around the corner, but I felt good about it. Every day, chip away, get yourself fit. And if you have been and you're not as much as you used to be, it's a great place to do that at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Must be 18 and up, 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up, and in Colorado for some games, 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369.
Allen Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Allen Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Welcome back into 365 Sports. Time to get into a weekly segment that is a feature this season and will be for the foreseeable future, our Big 12 Mojo Rankings. And so like power rankings, yes and no. Power rankings are taken into account here, but it's also the bigger picture as well. Wins and losses matter. Firings and hirings matter. All of the different intangibles that make a program as good as it can possibly be can have an effect on these rankings. But what does matter most is winning and losing. That's the top thing that matters above all. And right now, it's still a little bit early to kind of have too much separation. I think of like about 3 categories: a top group, a middle group, and a bottom group. But I think the lines are becoming a little bit clearer. And I think now we're going to be knee-deep in Big 12 ball, so we can see this list shuffle a lot. But, yes, this is my version of power rankings with just a little bit of a twist on it. So the Mojo Rankings playing into like the state of a program, how they're feeling, how the vibes are, and how the winning's going.
Can you win a game and drop? Like
if somebody behind you has a really great week,
or a quarterback gets hurt, or whatever,
quarterback gets hurt, you
Yeah.
lose a big commit or something, like
Right.
everything can come into play here, especially when you have very little room for separation. So let's dive on into the bottom four this week. And Oklahoma State, unsurprisingly, stays pat at number 16. I mean, how else could they not? You lose to Tulsa on a Friday night and you fire your longtime most successful head coach in school history just days later. So a pretty obvious choice there at number 16 with Oklahoma State. And I don't know if they get removed from this spot moving forward. I don't see a lot of hope for wins, but I did say in a little write-up I did for the 365 Sports newsletter that Baylor better be careful, because if there was ever going to be a supportive, passionate, excited crowd where anything's better than nothing, it would be this weekend in Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Do you guys remember the week that TCU fired Gary Patterson?
Yes. Yep.
Who they played?
Baylor.
Yep.
And they won.
Yep. You know who was on that staff? Doug Meacham.
Yeah, who's now the
interim coach at Oklahoma State.
At Oklahoma State. Now, TCU is a much better football team.
Yeah, they were, but
yeah. So Oklahoma State, no surprise here. West Virginia, they fall to Kansas 41-10. You get blown out like that, and you look as bad as they did, you get dropped a little bit. And West Virginia's been one of those teams that's sort of yo-yo. They get the big win against Pitt that brings them back up and lifts the spirits a little bit of again. But if you're looking at purely the football and starting there, and then following that up with some of the results, like a 31-point loss in conference play. Granted, Kansas is a good team. Just the mojo for West Virginia at this current moment, it's not that great, because while there's reasons to be excited about what it could be, right now it's very much not. Nico Marchiol is not a fit in this offense.
No.
Whatsoever. They are not good in a lot of areas, like downright bad, and particularly having some struggles on offense, thanks to not only a bad fit, but also a bunch of injuries. And so West Virginia, following the blowout to Kansas, has to be at number 15 this week.
Yeah, I watched I watched that whole game, and knowing what I know about Rich Rod offenses and how he likes, quarterbacks that are like, I'll use the term silky smooth. Like, you watch them run and move. And granted, the perfect one was Pat White, but that's not the only one he's ever had that was like that. All of his quarterbacks that he had over his time as a coach, when he was most successful, were guys, look, when he was at Arizona, like, he had guys like Khalil Tate, like guys that could run. Like, they were smooth runners. Nico Marchiol, while he may not be like, I don't think he's unathletic, but in this system where you've got to be a guy who can cut on a dime, he's more of a runner that's like, okay, I need 7 yards, and there's 8 yards in front of you. He can go get that in a straight line. But this offense is so much about speed and quickness. When Jalen Henderson's in there, it looks more like it should, except I think he's limited when it comes to running the whole offense as well. So once Rich Rod gets his quarterback, I think they'll be fine. It's just, I watched that game, and poor Nico is just not a fit in the new system at all.
No, and they might have one of the biggest dichotomies between offense and defense. Like, actually have a pretty good defense, but their offense is really, really bad right now, and that was just a bad loss. And because of that, they dropped down to the number 15 spot. K-State jumps up just a spot above West Virginia, because part of it comes down to, if they were playing today, who would I take? And I think I'd take Kansas State, and they're coming off of a bye, so they didn't prove a whole lot other than what we've already seen about them. They're obviously in a bit of a pickle as well. But in terms of mojo, theirs didn't really change, whereas I felt like the kind of mood in West Virginia dropped a little bit of like, all right, yeah, this is a tough loss to take. And then at number 13, got the Colorado Buffaloes, who had a nice win this past weekend over Wyoming. Caden Salter looks like he is going to be able to do what Dion asked of him. Had a nice performance in that win over the Cowboys. So I've got Colorado at number 13. And just because you drop, it doesn't mean it's about you necessarily. As you asked me earlier, it could also be about what others have done or what they are doing as well. So Colorado there drops a spot, but I actually am more optimistic about them moving forward because of the way Caden Salter and the whole thing just sort of operated last weekend.
It was nice to see them perform well. I love what Salter did. It's good for him, and they just needed a feel-good moment.
So on to the next batch of teams here as we get to 12 through 9. Baylor dropping huge in my rankings. And for some, that might be like, whoa, like they've lost to quality teams. They've lost to Arizona State and Auburn, and I totally understand that. This is not a pure power ranking, though. If this is a pure power ranking, then they would be right there somewhere inside probably the top 8 or 9, because I still feel like they're a very good team. But taking all things into account, you are still 2-2. You lost another big game at home. And so that has to factor in. If this is not a pound-for-pound ranking, so I've got Baylor dropping just in terms of kind of the mood around the program right now. You got the Dave Aranda conversation sprouting back up. I do feel like they are a team that could very easily jump up 5 spots in a couple weeks. I think that they are good, but they've got to prove it, and I think they have proven it even in their losses. Like, again, you lost a walk-off field goal to Arizona State type of outcome. And no, Josh Cameron's not going to fumble twice every game, and Sawyer Robertson's not going to throw a pick, and you're not just going to hand Arizona State points like you did, but you did. And so coming off of another tough home loss, I've got Baylor dropping to number 12.
They lost their 2 home. They've lost. Samford doesn't count. They've lost games at home. Auburn was fun to watch, but they weren't with any. They didn't belong in that. Well, they belong in the same field, but they weren't better. And then also it's just the chirping, the disinterest. Is this a fall down, or you're gonna? I don't know. And there is a lot of chatter right now. But where is this program going again? It seems like we've done that about every other year. I say, who cover the Baylor football team.
Watching the game the other day, you see these good things, but I watched the game and I thought both Baylor and Arizona State just not as good as I thought they were going to be, but still good teams. They still have those things. Baylor's defense played better than it has at times so far this year, but they still didn't make big plays when they needed to make stops, and that's where teams that are going to win the conference come in. Is where Arizona State kind of made those plays in this game, and that was the difference. Again, really, close game and a good game, and that's how games of the Big 12 work. You got to win the close ones. They didn't, and they've played. Of the 4 games they played, Auburn, SMU, and Arizona State really good. This is the best first 4 games, 3 out of 4, that they've ever played as far as opponents in my time here.
Well, since Grant Taffy.
There's some other teams that have played some good teams. I think they have the most impressive schedule of any team in the Big 12 right now as far as the quality of opponents that they played. Arizona State, SMU, and Auburn, who all have at one time or another been ranked in the top 25 this year. The only part about that is you're 1-2 against them, and the 2 losses are at home. So like I said, I think they could jump back up very, very quickly. I think they are a good football team, but you've got to go and you've got to prove it as well. So I think they'll go and do that against Oklahoma State. But for right now, they fall quite a bit to number 11. And part of the reason for falling is because there's a bunch of teams that didn't play. So how could their mojo dip if they weren't playing games this past weekend? So Cincinnati, Arizona, Houston, they were all off this past weekend, but I think they all feel great about where they are currently. I kind of tried to get into the weeds a little bit on what sort of separates these teams ultimately, and I went by, record. I mean, Houston's got a Big 12 conference win. They've beaten Colorado, whereas Arizona and Cincinnati have not yet played a conference game. Arizona's 3-0, Cincinnati's 2-1, so ultimately that's where I fell because I don't feel like there's a ton separating the attitudes about those programs right now. I think they all feel like they're off to a good start. They also know there's a really long way to go, but they all have reasons to be optimistic about why they could end up more towards the top, whether it's Wegman and that defense in Houston, whether it's Sorsby when he's on his A game in Cincinnati, or it's Fafita and Arizona just looking like a much better, more well-rounded team than last year. So, again, not much evidence to go off of this past weekend. But since they couldn't really have a bad week ultimately, that's why they all stay above a team like a Baylor, for example.
They're like on a teeter-totter. They can all move up 2 or 3, or they can all kind of stay and drop. But I like this right here.
Yeah, well, I guess I thought it had it here, but UCF ahead of Baylor on here. Should have mentioned them up 2 spots. The nice win over North Carolina in dominant fashion. So that's why I had UCF ahead of them. I got a little ahead of myself there. So, they jump up a couple spots. They've been kind of hanging towards the back, felt like they were sort of unproven, but you go and you beat an ACC school and you do it by 25 points. I know it's been a rough week for them personally, but it does feel like they've got a little bit of juice to them right now there in Orlando. So on to the next ones Arizona, as I mentioned, didn't play, so they dropped down a bit. Houston, again, I had to kind of autocorrect from last week a little bit, but I think they feel great about where they are. The defense is playing well. They're 3-0. They've got a win over Colorado. So I think that for right now, they deserve to be right there kind of in the middle ground. Kansas did not have the sharpest game, despite what the final score said, but I do like their football team. And I think there's some things they need to clean up and still some question marks, but ultimately they handled their business. And I think that they're a team that's going to be one of those that can create some interesting matchups down the stretch. Utah had to drop them pound for pound. Maybe you would have them still somewhere in the top 5 or even top 4, but dude, you get blown out at home.
24 points, man.
This is Mojo, baby. Yeah. So Mojo-wise, you take a big hit to the Mojo, and so they dropped down to number 6 following that loss to Texas Tech, and then Arizona State, a real quality win on the road, dramatic, emotional fashion to keep you 3-1 overall and 1-0 in Big 12 play, so a big first road win in conference play. I think the Sun Devils are good. I don't know they're quite as good as last year, but they are a team that I think is in more of that top group than in the middle group.
Yeah, and again, it was a nice win on the road, and I kept watching that game like, is somebody going to actually go win this game? Because it's winnable for both, and they did. Leavitt runs enough and made some plays with his feet, and, of course, had the huge bomb that set up a score late in the game. Real quick before you get to your top 4, you're not saying if somebody's ranked, for example, below somebody in the Mojo rankings that you wouldn't pick the team who's ranked lower, right?
Yeah, that's power rankings.
As of right now,
yeah.
That's want to make sure that not for you, but for this isn't like a AP poll. This is at the moment where teams are based on what they've done or not done over the weekend.
Yeah, this isn't you like, I mean, for example, we're doing power rankings. I'd have Baylor higher, but they're 2-2. So as far as Mojo rankings go, they're down in the dauber a little bit, so they've got to drop and just happened to be on a week where a lot of teams didn't play, so you slid probably further than you normally would because some of those teams would have taken losses. So, yeah, this is not – I guarantee that Houston would beat Baylor. It's just that Houston's off to a better start than Baylor is, and they are in a better position right now than Baylor is, and I think that's pretty obvious that they are, but you can make the case that Baylor's a better football team, for example, right now. All right, on to the top 4, and there you got TCU. They stay pat. BYU up a couple spots to number 3. I debated on BYU and TCU, but I just think BYU is super efficient right now, and I have some questions about TCU's defense and also their run game with Kavorian Barnes now being hurt as well. I just think when you look at BYU, while they definitely would not take them in a quarterback matchup, just the total package from special teams to defense to just the way that they even had to kind of separate and take a little while last week to get going and had some very fortunate moments, some interceptions with their backs against the goal line, a pick 6. Like they needed to make some big plays to win that game, but it was at East Carolina. I think they deserve a little bit of credit for going out and winning a game like that when a lot of people were putting them on upset watch, quite frankly, last week. So I was impressed by how they went and handled that. I think TCU is a great football team. I just think total package right now, if you're like, what wows you? Josh Hoover wows you, but what is and Eric McAllister wows you, but there's a lot of other questions I have about TCU beyond those guys. I'm a little bit more sure about the full BYU experience right now.
I'll tell you, I enjoyed watching BYU in East Carolina the other day. East Carolina did the thing that they do when they host these teams is that they kept them within reach, waiting for them to make that big mistake. BYU is just so well coached that they didn't make the big mistake at the wrong time. Now, look, they had some big mistakes. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Bear Bachmeier, my God, what an athlete he is. I cannot wait to see him develop. But you are watching a guy a little bit quarterback baby deer learning to stand up for the first time sometimes. And I watched him look at wide open receivers that were like 7 yards away and throw a 99-mile-an-hour fastball when he just needed to put a little touch on it. He is going to be a very special player, I believe, for BYU, and that's going to develop down the line. You can see why they feel comfortable having a true freshman out there because of his superb athleticism. But, yeah, that is going to be an up and down for the BYU faithful this year, where they're going to watch a tough defense and tough special teams, and they're going to see Bear Bachmeier make a play where he has like a 30-yard run, and then he's going to throw a pass where you're like, oh, please, Bear.
Yeah,
it's just going to happen.
Like a pitcher who comes up who can throw 100 miles an hour, who then learns how to pitch.
Yeah, and they're eventually going to run into some quarterback matchups where they are not favored, but I think their defense and special teams is very, very good. I feel like with TCU, it's a little bit more Hoover or bust, if that makes sense. They're a little bit more one-dimensional. And so like I said, the full BYU package versus TCU by a slight margin. This will separate. And Iowa State at number 2 as they drop a spot. They did not play last week, but resume-wise, there's a lot of people that still just do not want to believe in them whatsoever. And look, they might eat some losses coming up, but I feel like I've been hearing this for like years now, and yet they just keep going and winning games. It's like people still just don't want to give them any credit.
I think it's because for some they're not flashy enough, which is also their damn strength.
Right, yeah. And so they drop a spot, but that's because, the Mojo is in Lubbock, Texas right now. There's no program that feels better, that's winning bigger right now than the big win against Utah, 4-0, 1-0 in conference play as well. So you've got Texas Tech and Iowa State and Arizona State and Kansas and Houston all with wins now in Big 12 play. So that does factor in and could tip the scales from somebody who's 0-1 or 0-0. You get a little bit of credit for having a conference win. But, yeah, Texas Tech, the clear choice at number 1. If we were doing pound-for-pound rankings, power rankings, Texas Tech would be number 1. And there might be some slight deviance or differences, power rankings, like we said earlier. A Baylor's probably higher than a UCF and a Cincinnati and an Arizona, but they're also 2-2 guys, and they're 0-1 in conference. So that has to freaking matter.
Yeah.
And there's also chatter about the future of the program and the head coach again, whereas that's not happening necessarily in Houston right now, where they are unbeaten and have a win in the Big 12. So would I take Baylor over Houston? Yeah, I think that I would. But as far as the feeling of the program right this very moment, I think Houston's in a better place than Baylor is, and hopefully that helps make this make some sense.
It does, and again, the arrow's up, there's arrows down. There's some that are just stuck in the mud. Oklahoma State might be stuck there unless they just all rally together with the game at home at Stillwater against a 20-point favorite in Baylor, who, we'll see what happens. But I like it. There's, the first year I thought first week Colorado was a little bit too high. Mike Goolic Jr., by the way, coming up around the corner. And then a story with Tom Cillo from Lycoming College, 58-year-old trying to play college football. We'll have that in the next hour. I don't see anyone here that.
What's the big complaint this week?
I don't think there has been one. I get in the chat room, and of course, one of them was, okay, we have the Mojo. We need the Mofo rankings here. Pretty good.
Well, the bad Mofo rankings, Texas Tech would still be number 1. And then after that, it could get a don't different.
I don't see too many. You
can't put BYU in there because they don't say that word.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. I don't see it. Utah deserved the drop.
Yes.
They got thumped at home the way they normally thump at home, and they got thumped. They deserved the drop. We'll see about some of these teams that moved up, but I think UCF is good to see them have a bump. It's going to be a tough week, but also the 3-0, no matter what.
And there's very little. Houston, Arizona, the difference there is Houston's beat Colorado. Arizona, they beat K-State. That did not count as a conference win. So those are the kind of things I boil it down to. Like I said, winning trumps all, but it's also just kind of the overall aura around your program and in those football offices and whatnot. So that's where I am with this list this week.
Red wine, there's a lot of great 65. There's a lot of green arrows in Houston and Cincinnati's futures. And, of course, Cincinnati stays at 10. Houston moves up from 11 to number 8. Every Wednesday, usually it will be around 4:30, but every Wednesday, Craig Smoak's Big 12 Mojo Rankings. When we come back, Mike Goolic Jr., who's a part of the TNT broadcast, they do a great job, honestly, covering the Big 12 and also a part with his podcast on FanDuel. We'll have that. And Tom Cillo from Lycoming College and trying to play football at the age of 58. That and more. The top 5 quizzes, poll results. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. They are closing out the month of September. And, man, have they put up some fantastic incentives for you. They have great trucks, Ram trucks, great SUVs with Jeep, the Wagoneer, Grand Cherokee, and more. And in fact, APR 0% APR for 72 months on the 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee L at Allen Samuels, 3 rows, no interest, capability you know from Jeep and you also love. Also, the 2026 Ram 1500, right now, 0% APR for this is for 60 months. That's 5 years plus a 10-year, 100,000 mile powertrain warranty. The 2025 Ram 1500, 0% APR financing for 72 months. That's 6 years. David Gray, sales manager, Ted Teague, CEO and general manager, Alan Samuels with all sorts of incentives, interest in a lot of 0% APR financing this month on Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved, learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
From Brown QT, love you guys. The show and the analysis is so good. Wish you were truly a national show, just so good. Fight on. He's an SC fan. So we are coast to coast. Mike Goolic Jr. is too with FanDuel and a part of the coverage on TNT. And I got to tell you, Mike, a lot of great feedback from a lot of fan bases about what TNT stepping up to do what you've done this year with the Big 12 coverage. You care and you can tell and you're fair with the analysis, but I think it's giving the conference some juice.
Yeah, and listen, I think it's twofold, right? One, it's a conference that has an incredibly compelling product right now. I always joke I sound a lot better as a broadcaster when the games are good. And this year in the Big 12, there's an incredible depth of quality teams, great quarterbacks, all the stuff we knew going into the season. But, I've only worked for TNT for 2 years now, but it became clear pretty quickly. This is a company where the success, there's no secret, right? You look at what Inside the NBA was on TNT for years. It's the same care and attention to detail that they put into that product in the NBA for years, now just trained on a different target. And the Big 12 has been a great partner. They've given TNT, Bleacher Report, plenty of access into it. It's allowed us to take fans inside. And it's been a ton of fun to be a part of. We're excited about the rest of the season.
Look, I was fired up. I was at a wedding a couple weeks ago, so I didn't get to see it. But you guys used one of my segments in the Texas Tech pregame, which it really was impressive at the wedding. I'll tell you, people were impressed. Well, yeah,
there you go.
one
That's
of
how
my
you
top
make a
fives.
splash at a fall wedding. I was there. I was at one last weekend, and you got to try to find a way to stand out. So that's a good way to make sure you walk into the reception head held high.
Let me tell you, Mike, it's a hard thing. I made it through almost the whole day without my wife getting mad at me. It was her brother's wedding. And then USF beat Florida, and I just had to talk to people about it. And I was just reading tweets. And the bride and her father are doing the first dance, and I look across the room, and it's just daggers. Yeah. Daggers. I was like, oh, man.
See, this is my thing with fall weddings, because I understand the conversation we have all the time. And now the fact that it is that close and familial, maybe I can understand some of it. But my whole thought always is, I'm fine with fall weddings. I had a great time at the wedding last week. But especially if the people involved know what you do for a living and are like-minded at all. The wedding I was at, the groom, huge Longhorns fan, and they pointed out, originally when they booked the wedding, it was supposed to be a bye for Texas, and that obviously wasn't the case, although they get a nice win over Sam Houston. I'm fine with a fall wedding, but it's got to come with the understanding that you're going to have some distractive parties involved. I was at a wedding with Michigan fans. They're posted up at the cocktail hour watching that game against Nebraska. And nobody batted an eye. There was a good core of us over there enjoying that moment. So again, fall wedding's fine, but you have to kind of meet people halfway.
Mike, the Mike Gundy clock we thought was ticking, and it seemed like that clock was ticking faster and faster. And then it came yesterday, the decision, they move on without him. He's a legend. He's Oklahoma State football player. Coach, your thoughts about Mike Gundy after such a legacy there where he played the game too?
Yeah, great reminder that very few of us, even in places we love and that love us back, get to go out on our own terms in this line of work. And Mike Gundy was no exception. The program had lost its way in the last couple of years. I know as recently as 2023, we saw them in a Big 12 championship game, Ollie Gordon in that great season. But the stretch they had been on, 11 of their last 12 FBS games had been losses, 0 in the conference last year. And this year, starting off not only wounded, but you have the comments in the lead up to the Oregon game that make that even more of an eyesore. And then what happens against Tulsa at home, it just all seemed untenable right now. And Mike Gundy can leave behind a great legacy. What he was a part of as a player and a coach there, all can still matter. But I can understand the school believing, hey, we've got to get a head start on the next direction, because we know in this day and age, when you've got name, image, and likeness, the portal options that so many players have, if you can't present a compelling plan and vision going forward, it's easy for things to bottom out pretty quickly, and you wonder how much that weighed heavy on the decision makers there. So this can be a celebration. Mike Gundy meant a lot of things to Oklahoma State, did so many great things there, but after 21 years, it can still be time for a fresh voice in that locker room, and I'm very curious to see who it's going to be.
Mike, Texas Tech went into Salt Lake City and absolutely drilled Utah, who I still think is a pretty darn good team. I just think that Tech is that much better. How big of a statement was that for Joe McGuire and the guys? Because they've needed this for quite a long time to say, hey, we are really here.
Yeah, a great proof of concept for them, right? Going into a year where they were going to get all this notoriety because of the price tag associated with their roster. And through the early portion of the season had handled business, but had not really been challenged. And this going up against a team that was in their weight class finally, because this game, I'm with you. I come off thinking very highly of both teams, especially both defenses. This was a 13-10 game in the fourth quarter. It spiraled late because Utah had some chances and mistakes that didn't go their way. And Texas Tech was able to take advantage of them with a backup quarterback, by the way. And I know in getting to cover their game against Kent State, they had a lot of confidence talking to Mac Leftwich, their offensive coordinator, in Will Hammond and what he brought to the table, what he meant to that group behind Baron Morton. And so to get to see that on full display, 163 yards passing, 61 on the ground, and to lead some important scoring drives for them in Barron's stead, I thought was, again, just how Joey McGuire has brought this group of incredibly prominent, well-paid parts together and made them a team. He said that's his superpower. He's there for the culture building. He's there so that when the new players came into the program, they would have guys from different position groups, guys from different parts of that team go out to breakfast together at different spots around Lubbock each week during the offseason to get to know each other, to get to know the community. He empowered leaders on that defense like Skylar Gill-Howard, who came over from Northern Illinois and was a transfer player, but a guy they immediately recognized, hey, he's got great leadership intangibles. Let's put him in a position to lead. And so for the coaches to see that, for players like Baron Morton who are coming back, who had been a part of that team already, to have the humility to allow guys like that a place and a role in that team, not just on the field, but vocally, I think all of that team building and tangible stuff has been there present, and that leaks over onto the field when you're in a big time matchup like that, with a place that is as well known for its continuity as Utah is under Kyle Whittingham.
Mike, Cincinnati at Kansas coming up on TNT this Saturday. I saw you had a couple tweets looking at Cincinnati film. Great quarterback there in Brendan Sorsby. Jalen Daniels ought to be a hell of a matchup just with the quarterbacks alone. But what kind of stands out to you about Scott Satterfield's Bearcats and also Lance Leipold and the Jayhawks?
Yeah, I think for Cincinnati, the thing that's always going to jump out to me, I'm a former offensive lineman, and I turned on the tape to watch them because you see the stat going into this game, 0 sacks allowed so far, which is equal parts a Brendan Sorsby conversation, right? He's a great dual threat quarterback. He leads their team in rushing, and he's a guy that was coming back into the season with a lot of juice amongst the sea of really good Big 12 quarterbacks. So sacks are in part a quarterback stat, and that goes a long way. But that group in front of him is well-coached and a very talented group in this conference. Gavin Gerhardt is a 3-time captain. There have only been 4 3-time captains in the history of Cincinnati football, and 2 are on this team. They rave about his leadership ability. We got to talk to their coaching staff today about how cerebral he is, about how much he helps his quarterback in setting the protections and getting to everything lined up front. And so when you've got that foundation up front, which – no surprise, Scott Satterfield comes from that App State lineage where they're well known for being built up front, built on that foundation of the offensive line. It makes it easier to spread it around to a bunch of really compelling weapons that they've got on the offense in the skill position group, wide receivers from the transfer portal, their tight end Joe Royer, who's a former Ohio State transfer, who's an NFL guy, a Sunday guy. So they've got all the parts there. And then defensively, this is a group that is now in the last season into this season, playing that 3-3-5, that Iowa State defense that's been so popular among the rest of the conference here, trying to go out here and play good complementary football. Played a really close game against Nebraska early in the season. And that was a great challenge going on the road to a Kansas program that when Jalen Daniels has been healthy and upright, man, this is an exciting football team. Lance Leipold has gotten universal buy-in across a program that was known traditionally as a basketball school for so long. I remember the excitement back in the day when Les Miles took over there, post-LSU, and everyone saw the name and all that. And then they go and hire this coach from Buffalo in his wake who comes over and really has a vision for what they can be. This exciting offense that we know when Andy Kotelnicki, their coordinator, left to go to Penn State, people wondered how it was going to look. Lo and behold, still good there. And now this year, playing some really great defense. I think 11 or 12 sacks on the season already up front. So they played and lost a really close game to a really good Missouri team too. So both of these teams have played someone strong in their out-of-conference matchups, tested themselves early, and now enter Big 12 play. I think in a really interesting position. We know, again, Texas Tech and Utah probably going to get the top billing. But in that dark horse group of teams that could potentially step up, certainly last year's champion Arizona State stands out. But I think these two teams are both well positioned to be within striking distance when it's all said and done of earning that trip to Dallas.
When we were at Big 12 Media Day, just a quick note on what you said about Cincinnati and offensive line. Scott Satterfield, they were being slept on a little bit. We still don't know the end result, but he had a glimmer in his eye when he talked about his offensive line. He really liked them back then and had a reason to.
Yeah, no, and I think Nick Cardwell, their offensive line coach, is a guy that at every stop along the way has been really consistent. And I think in college football and in NFL football, quite honestly, there are so few difference makers coaching that position. And you look on Sundays at what you got. Perfect example, Monday Night Football. The Detroit Lions have one in Hank Fraley, former NFL offensive lineman himself, who took a unit there that was replacing Frank Ragnow, who was a difference-making culture setter, great player at center. They got a second-year player at left guard, a first-year player at right guard, and they went out there and they paved a way for that running back room against a really good Baltimore Ravens program. And so coaching matters at these spots. And when you look up and see, all right, you're getting ready for each season, and I look and see Nick Cardwell coaching the offensive line at Cincinnati, I go, okay, I know what to expect with that group. And I turn on the tape and see that reflected, and it's really exciting to watch.
Arizona State and TCU play on Friday night. You mentioned Arizona State. TCU, they've got some good vibes going themselves. After last week, winning the last Iron Skillet, what do you think about them and where they're headed and what you still need to see from them?
Boy, I tell you what, Josh Hoover could sling that thing. Like at a conference of quarterbacks that we talk about, very few going to sit. I think him and Sawyer Robertson right now at the top of the conference in terms of that kind of production. And when you got a guy who can put the ball in those places, you're always going to have a great chance to go out and be successful. I understand going back to the Iron Skillet game, SMU, that defense, not quite what they were in 2024 and not presenting the same challenge, but I still think TCU's look really good to start the season. It's the perfect kind of challenge because right now they're getting an ASU team that has found themselves again. Like the second half of that Mississippi State game, I get it ended in a loss, but you talk to Kenny Dillingham and the rest of that staff and they believe, hey, 17-play, 95-yard drive that ended in a field goal, multi-play drive before that was 90-plus. We know who we are on the ground right now. You don't have Cam Scadaboo anymore, but you look at that backfield, Kanye Udo, Raleek Brown, Tyson Brown when he was healthy, like that's a group and a three-headed monster that offered them a lot on the backfield before you get to a guy like Jordan Tyson who, hey, Jeremiah Smith's maybe the best player in college football and certainly the best receiver. Jordan Tyson might be the first wide receiver taken in the draft this year. He's that good. And so they're deep with weapons there. Sam Levitt's a really potent threat on the ground in addition in the air. So they're catching Arizona State at a time where I think they're rounding into form. And so it's a great chance for TCU getting into conference play here to also get a real good look at how high this can fly for them. And I believe they're very capable.
So, Mike, there's a lot of other great games around the country this weekend, like Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, Penn State, Oregon. I was wondering which game are you most intrigued by, but there's another one that's not quite ranked versus ranked, but I know you'll be eyeing. That's you're Irish traveling to Fayetteville to take on the Razorbacks and Taylon Green and company. I was just wondering how you felt about that one as well.
Yeah, I'll work backwards to forwards on that one. For Notre Dame and Taylon Green, great opportunity. I'm curious to see who's healthy for the Irish in the secondary. Last game, you were down your best defensive player in star cornerback Leonard Moore, your sophomore All-American candidate, and your veteran transfer at nickelback in former Alabama defensive back Devontae Smith. So both of those meant you had two true freshmen and a redshirt freshman starting at pivotal positions in that secondary. And who is up and available for this game going to go a long way because the pass rush, the four-man rush just hasn't been there so far. And for Taylon Green, quarterback, an incredible athlete. Sam Pittman has a ton of confidence in him. They go as he goes on offense. But defensively, it looks like it's going to be hard for anyone to get stops in this game. The Arkansas defense certainly been tough sledding. And Notre Dame offensively, CJ Carr's best pure passer I've seen in South Bend maybe since Jimmy Clausen. He's looked sensational and unflappable so far. And that running back tandem, that two-headed monster of Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, I'd put up there against any running back group in college football. So great opportunity for them. Just curious who's actually suited up and healthy on the field for Notre Dame defensively. As far as the rest of the weekend, Oregon and Penn State for me. What's it going to be for Penn State this year? The offense hasn't looked as explosive in taking that next step as people wanted, even with the overhaul of transfer receivers to offset the loss of Tyler Warren at tight end. Can Drew Aller take that next step to be what Penn State fans always wanted him to be when he was backing up Sean Clifford? Or is it going to be more of what we saw last year? Defensively, they know what they can do. And that's what excites me on the other side because Dante Moore, I know they have not been challenged yet. They ran over Oklahoma State. They got to win in a rivalry game against Oregon State, but those teams were not as talented as Oregon, and everyone knew it. Dante Moore looks the part, man. Dante Moore looks like a special player, the one we always thought he was going to be during the recruiting process. The gifts he has combined with the offensive line in front of him, the way that Will Stein's called offense since he showed up there in Eugene, I think this is a team that if they go into Happy Valley this weekend and get the kind of win I think they're capable of, we're going to be talking about a lot more frequently on the national level for being one of those teams ready like they were last year to compete for a national championship.
Mike, when we made some of our picks, and that was one of the games, of course, I close my eyes, I think of Oregon, I think of nothing but speed. Not that they don't have physicality. I think about Penn State with those black cleats and the way they look. But they have athleticism and great speed. And that's something, though, when I close my eyes, that's what I still think about either program. And that's probably unfair about Penn State, isn't it?
No, I mean, I think for both teams, like, there is still ties to the identities that have always existed there. And for Penn State, I was just talking to Devin Still this morning, the former defensive tackle from Penn State, and the through line of great defensive products on that side of the ball, the cornerback play that you usually get there, linebacker, all that stuff, in addition to an offense that's going to have big guys up front that can do their thing and guys in that backfield, Katron Allen and company. I think still some of those things are true. It's more about the ceiling now for Penn State in this day and age. For Oregon on the other side, the only thing I push back, there's speed to burn. That's group of bullies up front. Like, going back to when Mario Cristobal was there, Oregon has become one of the premier trench teams on both sides of the ball in college football. Dan Lanning brought that recruiting ability and defensive structure, the likes of which we saw in Athens for years. He's got that Kirby Smart about him. But I also think offensively, that's a line Joe Moore Award folks are going to be looking out for that group to see how they perform against a really quality group, Zane Duran and the rest of that defensive front, because I think they've got that potential. They are built to push people around up front.
Mike, last question for me and the most important one. Which one did you like better, the Oreo Reese's or the Reese's Oreo?
Yeah, great question. I was more of a fan, and it surprised me, of the Oreo Reese's. I thought the Reese's Oreo was going to win it going away from me. I love the Oreo stuff, and I figured the flavor palette and the pairing there was tailor-made for that one. But the cookie crunch inside the Reese's peanut butter cup really set it apart. I'm a big textural eater, and that one hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I was with you. I had them at the same time too. Like, I play the fat boy game well. Okay, I don't mess around. I'm not new to this. You gotta separate together all of it. But I agree with you.
Yeah, I didn't quite go a little bit of ginger in between to palate cleanse, but I was trying to go about it the same way. The scientific method is honored and appreciated in this house, and clearly in yours as well.
Yeah. I love the logo on your shirt. I have a ton of Roback type shirts and sweats and whatever. I saw that on your chest. It's a great brand, isn't it? Very comfortable. Mike, we appreciate your time as always today.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Mike Goolic Jr., TNT, also FanDuel with us on 365 Sports. When we come back, I don't know how old you are. I don't know how active you are. I don't know how long, or did you play high school or college football, but a great story about Tom Cillo. He's next from Lycoming College. This is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace off I-35 in Waco. If you live in Texas, now, maybe if you're in deep West Texas or up in Lubbock and you're many hours away, it is worth the drive if you need or your doctor has requested an MRI. If you have a shoulder, back, if it's a ligament, if it's a muscle, something is hurting you and your doctor wants a better view, they want evidence, like film don't lie. Ideal MRI, $497 or less every single time, and their imaging machine is state of the art. $497 or less every single time. They do full body scans too, which is a different type of system. But they do that for you. You find out, your doctor finds out, then you can go, there's the diagnosis, how are we going to get treated? IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas Marketplace off I-35 in Waco.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
So I want to show you a video. This is prior. There is Tom Cillo from, Lycoming College on the screen. Tom, you're going to enjoy this because you'll remember this. But this is Super Bowl champion Bill Cowher right before the first game that Tom was going to play. This is Bill Cowher's message to Tom just 3 weeks ago.
Tom, Bill Cowher, the story is absolutely amazing. I admire your passion, your determination, your commitment. Good luck today. I know it's September 6th, and I know that you're going to be out there on the football field. How much you played can yet to be determined. But you have been an inspiration. When they say never too late, you're taking it to another level. Now, I wish you nothing but the best, and you are an inspiration. Love your passion and determination. You're going to make an impact on a lot of people more than you think. Good luck, Tom. Stay healthy. Don't be afraid to get low and get down. Stay out of the house. You are 58. Good luck. One hit, get out of there, make a tackle. You can notch that one up, 1 each week, maybe even 2. But just take it easy. Protect yourself. Admire you. Good luck.
I know you can't hear me, but thanks, Coach. I love you, brother. That was pretty cool. That was powerful. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was from CBS Sports. Tom Cillo now joins us. Craig, David, Smokey here on 365 Sports. Paul, and just got off the practice field. Tom, what has all the attention been like? Let's start with that because a lot of people are starting to understand and know your story.
Well, it's picking up steam. I'll say that. And, the good side of this is part of that attention. I have people literally from all over the world reaching out to me. Matter of fact, Saturday, I just had somebody from Bosnia send me a message and said, yes, we got wind of your story even over here. And he said, what an inspiration. And it was just, it was powerful. And I've had people from Australia, from England, Germany, Mexico, all over the United States. And, part of what I'm doing here, I'm not going to, shy away from this. I did want to inspire people, but let me tell you, it's reciprocal, man. It's coming back and then some. People are sending me messages every day, pictures, and I need that stuff too to help keep me going, and it motivates me. I appreciate all of it.
All right, so tell the story. I can do it in a quick, like in Cliff Notes. You were in high school. You did not play college football. You went through some things early in life, like a lot of people do, and then all of a sudden, this became an idea. And a friend of yours, who's a part of the board of trustees, I believe, told Coach Clark about you. You met with him. So that's the story with Tom and where he is at Lycoming College and the football program. And it's an amazing story. We appreciate your time too.
Tom, I just have a question as a guy who played high school football 25 years ago. When I was 17, practice hurt. I was sore as hell. I'm 45 now, and I can't imagine doing it. And I know that you're in fantastic shape, and you're a powerlifting guy, but you're 58. And football hurts, man. How you've been holding up over this, and how do you deal with the soreness? Because it's different when you're 17. It's over in like an hour.
The football hurts part, I will agree with you 100% on that. I've learned that really quickly. College football is for real. It is no joke, and it's something that's always been in the back of my mind for years. Might be an understatement. I would say decades. But I never really acted on it. But even prior to the contact with the trustee for Mark Sittler, he's a trustee for Lycoming College. But even months prior to that, I had discussions with a really good friend of mine, Dave Belomo, who also serves as my trainer. And I said, Dave, I have always wanted to do this. And I think I'm still in good enough physical shape to give this a shot. And boy, he might have been the impetus I needed, because he perked right up, and he became super excited. He was 100% encouraging, and he said, if you want to do it, give it a shot. Why not? And so the decision was made then, and we went to work, man. He started training me, and we were doing a lot of stretching, a lot of soft tissue work. I love the weight. The weight room is a passion of mine, and it always will be. If I had a doctor that said you can't lift weights anymore, I would find another doctor.
And you have been in the weight room a lot. You've the powerlifting and all that. This is you're a strong man. I know it's still bumps and bruises, whatever, but you have been in great shape.
Well, I appreciate that. And at 58 years old, you don't just come to this decision and get off the sofa and say, I'm going to give this a try. So I have maintained a certain level of fitness over the years, to this point, that a lot that went into my decision-making process. And like I said, Dave was so instrumental in that. And, he put me through some pretty tough workouts, honestly. And, got me ready, for camp to come in as prepared as I possibly could. And, and then I had reached out to Mark Sittler, he's a Lycoming grad. He played here in the 80s on some really good teams. They had phenomenal defenses. And I said, Mark, I want to give this a shot. And so he made contact with the coach, and the coach contacted me. We had coffee. We had a discussion, and it didn't take long for Coach Clark to understand that I was very serious about this.
What has changed the most, even though you weren't playing when you decided you had things you were going through? What has changed the most, in your opinion, about football?
Probably the size of the dudes I'm going up against.
Okay. Yeah.
When you say football hurts, it hurts. And they're working me at nose tackle. And truth be told, I'm about 220 pounds. If I have a good pizza, I can bump that to 225. But pretty much across the board, you're going up against guys that are just about 300 pounds across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And I may have some accomplishments in the weight room, but this is a whole different dynamic. When you get a pair of dudes that weigh 280, 300, double teaming you and hitting you from different angles, it's tough. It's tough.
You started drinking at an early age, and you stopped. and you went through all that. How much did that like allow you maybe to open up like all these things and this desire that maybe you had kind of mashed down a little bit over the years?
Yeah, I was probably about, I'll be, quite frank. I was 15 years old and I started doing things that maybe teenagers do. I'm not endorsing it, but just that's the reality of the situation. I went down a different path that honestly, I thought I was going to play college basketball. That was a dream of mine too when I was younger. So stay tuned on that one.
Yeah.
Don't discount that. And, but all these years later, like I said, I maintained a level of fitness and, I want part of my message too, to resonate with young people that, I don't want them to go down the same path that I went down. So, I want this to be part of my journey, part of my message, and I'm going to dedicate myself to that.
Well, obviously, Coach Clark had to take you seriously when you met with him for a cup of coffee. How has he been, and how have the coaches been as you've tried to get yourself in a position to play? I think you guys have played 3 games and trying to get you on the field. You have to be patient, but you also understand what you're up against, as you've mentioned.
I totally understand what I'm up against. And, I'm still a freshman. I'm still new to this, and, learning the playbook, trying to take the playbook and transfer it onto the field and making sure, my stance is correct. I got the right gap covered. And there's a lot to take in 2 months' time, but the coaching staff has been phenomenal. And, as far as camp goes, I don't really have anything to compare it to, but I got to credit Coach Clark. He has been fantastic. It was high energy, no nonsense, and, credit to him. And, honestly, I'm working. I can tell you I'm working, and I'm working hard. I just haven't done enough to get on the field to this point. I'm getting a lot of scout team reps. And to Coach's credit, from day one, he never promised me that how this was going to play out. He said, just come in and go to work and we'll see where it goes. And I appreciate him for that. And so I would love to see the field at some point. Absolutely. And I'm working my way to get there, and just to get through one college football practice, it's tough. And then you get through a week of practices. Guys get hurt, guys get banged up at any age, and I know I'm at injury for risk, but again, it can happen at any age. So just getting through a week of practice and putting that uniform on game day, I've earned the right to do that. And whether I see the field or not, I hope that'll play out in the near future here.
How much advice do the younger players, they're all younger than you, but the players on the team come to you for, because this isn't like a guy coming back from playing minor league baseball who's 27. You're 58. You've lived life. You've got kids that are grown up and gotten married and all these things. What kind of relationship have you forged with those young guys?
The relationship is absolutely positively phenomenal, and it's getting better all the time, and I really mean that. I genuinely mean that. And as far as advice goes, maybe not a whole lot, but I'm just focused on building our relationship. And I've stated this before, that when I came in here, from day one, I didn't want somebody's respect given to me. I didn't want it handed to me. I wanted to come in here and earn it. That was my mindset. So I know guys were skeptical, understandably. I get it. And, but we came in and we had to do some testing in the weight room, and, I might've got their attention. They're like, okay, and then we had to do conditioning tests. And for the linemen, we had to go goal line to 15 and back within 6 seconds, doable, but we had to do it 16 times. We had to knock it out 16 times. And that was not an issue for me. And I've stated before, I'm not ashamed to say I smoked a number of dudes in the process. So after the weight room and after the conditioning, our relationship has just been getting better and better and better. And I've also shared this also. My youngest son, he's 21, recently competed in a Mr. Beast contest. And when I shared that with my teammates, their jaws dropped. I didn't know who Mr. Beast was at that time. I know now. But so this past Saturday, this contest aired on YouTube, and we had a watch party on campus, and it was absolutely epic. It was epic. It was a really good team building event too. And so to answer the question, yes, our relationship is great, and it's getting better all the time.
Tom, what will it be like if and when that moment occurs, when all of a sudden they say you're in?
I will look like Tyreek Hill or Usain Bolt sprinting out on that field. My cleats are going to be digging the turf up, and I can't wait for that moment. It's going to be exciting. And whenever it happens, but I am ready for it.
What was it, or was there any, you didn't play college football, so you have eligibility. I mean, again, like Paul mentioned, minor league baseball players come back and play. Was there any paperwork, log jam, or anything like that you had to deal with to enroll and also be cleared to play?
No log jam. And I joked that I had to go find a boarded up one-room schoolhouse to get my transcript. Obviously, that's not true, but I did have to do a little digging. I got my transcripts applied, and didn't really have too much of a pushback on that. And 2 thumbs up and credit to Lycoming College. They have been great throughout this entire process, and I can't thank them enough. I can't thank Coach Clark enough. And so, yeah, no pushback on the paperwork. Everything went pretty smooth.
You mentioned your son's 21. He's older than some of the guys you're playing with.
I think he's older than most of the guys I'm playing with.
Yeah.
My children are 32, 28, and 21.
What has been their reaction to what you're doing?
They're not surprised. They're not surprised. They know their father has a little bit of crazy in him. But I've stated before, whether you're 18 or 58, you got to have a little bit of crazy in you to step out on the football field, on a college football field. So I'm okay with that.
Question from Alan in the chat room. What if, in fact, you were given, I think it was Val, what would, in fact, if you were given a chance to have an NIL deal to promote a business or brand or something, what would that possibly be?
Oh, wow. I tell you what, ever since I was a little boy, and this is gospel, I have been wearing the black Converse Chuck Taylors since I was a kid. And I still wear them to this day. You can look at a lot of my social media, my powerlifting stuff. I absolutely love Chuck Taylors. And I'll wear them. I'll probably wear them to the day I die. I might even wear a pair in the casket. Maybe I'll put that request in.
We need to get a hold of them for that.
Yeah,
I would love that.
When I mentioned to somebody earlier this week that we're going to try to get you on the show, they brought up, is he the guy in the movie? And as you know, there's a movie out called The Senior. Have you watched that?
I have not seen the movie. Recently, I did learn about that. And actually, they have reached out to me on Instagram and also via email with a possibility of trying to get myself and Mike Flint in the same room together. And I think that would be absolutely incredible. I would welcome that with open arms. And I mean, listen, the deeper I get into this and the more involved it gets, I have, Mike, I don't know if you're watching, but what an appreciation I have for you and what you went through. And, I think him and I would hit it off. I honestly believe that. And because we both have an idea what it takes to be here.
It was Steve that asked that question. Put your hands up on the screen because I saw you almost look like you're getting ready to go into a boxing match. You have your hands. Look at that.
Yeah.
Are those fingers broken or are they just?
Well, I'm pretty sure one is. And I've taken my lumps. I'm not ashamed to say, I've gotten knocked around and pushed back and pancaked a couple times, and you peel yourself off the turf and you get back up and you get ready for the next one. But I missed a couple practices earlier in camp with some bruised ribs. It's a tough racket, but you know what? I didn't walk into Staples and bang the easy button. I signed up for college football, and this is part of it. And I'm thrilled to be going on a journey with a group of guys all through camp and through an entire season, and just go through the grind with them.
Well, it's a great story. Again, do you at times, when you reflect back on what you've been through in life, what is that like to where you are now and what you've overcome?
I've had some, like most people, a lot of highs in life and definitely some low points. And at times I feel like I've tried to redefine rock bottom for myself, but you can't stay down there. You got to get up, dust yourself off and keep on going. And, what a test training camp was. What a test, an absolute test. I mean, you're talking nearly 2 weeks of 12 to 14-hour days, 7 a.m. up till 9:30 p.m., and you're stacking them days one right after the other, and it's tough. Anybody who's been through it knows how tough it is. And, the younger dudes, just finding the day-to-day energy is tough. So take me and multiply that by about 3 or 4. And honestly, there were a couple, 2 to 3 times during camp that it's hot, it's super hot, and you're grinding and you're sweating and you're kind of in pain and you're wondering, like, is this worth it? Can I make it? Can I make the cut? And I have a friend, Jeff Cherba from high school. He had sent me a text prior to camp, and he just said, "Be unbreakable."
Oh, yeah.
And I've taken that word unbreakable and I tucked it in my mind, and I had to reach for it a few times during camp. So just getting through camp was a win because it's tough.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if there was ever a day when you went to bed one night and thought you were going to probably call coach and say, "Hey, I'm done. I gave it a shot." But man, you are something else. One of the chat put me in, coach. When like the movie or that song in baseball. A lot of people love your story and really appreciate you being a part of it. I hope that opportunity comes where they get you out, whether it's on a return team or coverage team or to play a snap at nose tackle. It's an inspiring story. And Tom, thank you very much for sharing it with us. And we might follow up with you a little bit later on. And to hear from somebody from Bosnia, Australia, and more, that's the kind of story it's been. Thank you very much for your time.
Do I have time to share one quick story?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. This might be my favorite one so far. Like I've said, a lot of people have inspired and motivated me, but I had a 73-year-old woman reach out to me, just sent a random message, said she loves to sing, and she wanted to join her church choir, but she didn't do it because she didn't want to be the oldest person in the choir. She saw my story. She was so motivated and inspired by what she saw that she decided to join her choir. And
That's awesome.
That stuff right there is just incredible. And I appreciate her and so many others that are reaching out to me with positive remarks and positive feedback. I can't be thankful enough. And I love it. I love them all. I appreciate it.
That's awesome, Tom. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, young man, and good luck the rest of the year. Tom Cillo with us from Lycoming College and the football team. From Barry Crawford to wrap it up with this, thank you very much. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. My salute to Tom.
Yeah,
there you go.
Great.
Gentlemen, thank you. Pleasure meeting each one of you. Thank you.
You too. That's, again, Tom Cillo with us on 365 Sports, and good luck with him. Super chat from retired stockbroker who mentioned, put me in, coach, from Kim. Go Tom. Thank you very much for the super chats here on 365 Sports. Appreciate that. Appreciate Lycoming College for allowing him. He had just walked off the practice field, got in front of a laptop, and then did the interview. When we come back, Paul's top 5 quizzes, poll results, and more. And this is 365 Sports.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Today, we're going to talk about things I was wrong about. And look, I think it's good in modern society where we can kind of get dug in, leaning one way or the other, to admit when we were wrong about things. It's going to be really important in the future for us to admit when we were wrong about things. It takes a big person to admit when they are wrong. And I am going to do it in such a small way when I'll tell you things I was wrong about in college football. Number 5, Indiana. I was wrong about Indiana. I kind of thought they were a one-year wonder. I thought Illinois was going to be pretty good. They shredded them. Now, is this the playoff team? I don't know, but I know that their offense is prolific. I know Francisco Mendoza is an upgrade at quarterback. They looked fantastic. They looked fantastic all year. They have a bit of a tougher schedule, but they are going to be a very, very tough out. And Iowa is going to have to hold them in the 20s to have a chance to beat them this week. So, Kurt Cignetti, I apologize, sir. I was wrong. Number 4, Ole Miss maybe being down. When you can roll out a backup quarterback that's even better than the guy who maybe beat him out in practice in Austin Simmons and might still go back in fair state transfer Trinidad Chambliss here. You have got weapons and you have got an established system. Lane Kiffin's got something going on. If they can pull the upset over Ole Miss and that game is at home this week, that will maybe mean I'm a little bit even more wrong about this. I thought this would be a good, not great Ole Miss team. Well, they beat Kentucky, which is something they didn't do last year. It still wasn't pretty. But since Trinidad Chambliss has been playing quarterback, they have been prolific on offense. Now, can they keep that up against one of the nation's better defenses in LSU? We'll see, but I think I was wrong. And Lane Kiffin, for the first time in my life, to you, sir, I apologize. Number 3, Avery Johnson. No, look, I'm not going to apologize to Avery Johnson. I still think he has a tremendous amount of potential. I think he's not playing in the best play calling system for him right now, and they've yet to really turn him loose on the ground. What Kansas State's doing this year makes no sense to me, but I apologize to all Kansas State fans that I might have gotten excited about my belief in Avery Johnson as a quarterback. It hasn't really lessened. I just think that he needs a new voice telling him what to do because they have taken the athleticism out of it, and Kansas State's offense feels like they're like trapped in a box right now. So, to Kansas State fans who I made even more excited about Avery Johnson than they already were, every man is a Wildcat except for me, and I'm sorry. Number 2, Mark Gronowski. I was excited about an FCS quarterback going to Iowa and possibly making them watchable. I let my emotions get the better of me. And I talked up Mark Gronowski, who's still a fine player. I mean, he's not bad or anything, but nothing can make Iowa football watchable, people. I'm sorry. Nothing can do it. Nothing can do it. Absolutely nothing. So if you thought, hey, I'm going to watch this Iowa game because Paul said that their quarterback is really good, I apologize to you. I apologize to Iowa. I apologize to Mark Gronowski for probably giving him a big head, thinking that he's the guy who could save Iowa's offense. It's not his fault. It's just the nature of the beast. So to all that, I am sorry. I was wrong. And number one, Clemson being the best team in the nation. I've watched 3 of their 4 games. I didn't get to watch Troy, but I've watched 3 of their 4 games in their entirety. And I could not have been more wrong about anything. This is not a good team right now. So much so that Dabo Swinney went on an absolute rant last week about, is this not good enough? Is this not good enough? Then they got zonked by Syracuse. And now he's like, well, I feel bad. I let everybody down. Yeah. You've got him eating humble pie 1 week after he answered a question, what was the play you'd like to take back in the Georgia Tech game, with a 13-minute rant on if nothing else is good enough for the fans. I think the expiration date on Dabo and Clemson is coming. I don't know when, but they seem to be a little bit stressed out with each other. This has the reek of early Gundy there. Greatest coach in their history, Dabo Swinney, but maybe everybody needs a fresh start. Probably doesn't come this season at Clemson, and shouldn't. He's been wildly successful. But to myself, I am sorry for making me think that Clemson had fixed things. But I'm not sorry for anything else that has happened, because as a fan of a team in the ACC, I've got to admit, fan Paul, kind of enjoying it. I'm sorry to the players on Clemson. I'm sorry to all that. But am I really that good of a person? I just spent the last few minutes trying to show you how big of a person I was by apologizing for things I'm wrong about, and then admitting I was wrong about a thing that I'm happy to be wrong about. Does that mean I'm a good guy? I don't know. I'm morally confusing. Anyway, it's time for the Andrew Valade Sprinkles. Let's get it.
Paul, very much. He's not sad about being wrong. I think what's the word? Passive aggressive on your prediction of Clemson, hoping you were wrong. We have this wheel. You can't really see the writing on it. We're going to spin the wheel and tell us what we're doing here.
Okay.
Then we'll have all the other graphics and stuff.
Yeah. So we're going to spin the wheel. This is something Andrew came up with, and these have got random categories on them. And once we answer the question, it's going to go, and we'll go through it one by one over time. And,
who's first?
We'll just spin the wheel first, and then we'll go through and all three answer the question.
All right.
Okay.
I love that noise. I always have.
Yeah. Okay. So the topic today is favorite college football team logo. So Smokey, we'll let you go first on this one.
Damn. It can't be Penn State, because they really don't have one on their helmet, right? Is this on their helmet?
Just what the look, yeah.
Yeah. Man, I got to tell you, I don't like them. They're among the blue bloods, but it is hard to, and it's blasphemy as a college football fan, because they own my favorite team over the years. But it is hard to argue with the UT logo, the horns on the side of the helmet.
Craig, what's yours? Yeah.
It's Texas. I mean, they have the best logo. I don't think it's really even an argument. I'd say beyond that, there's not even one that really comes to mind other than the Oregon O, like the Oakley looking O, which I've always thought looks just like the Oakley symbol, but I guess it's different enough that it doesn't matter. But for me, yeah, it's hard to beat UT's Longhorn logo.
Now,
as much as I would like to pick anybody else, it is what it is.
I think it's the best. It's iconic as far as my favorite. I always have loved the USC logo on the side of their helmet, but that's to me.
I love the Michigan helmets.
Yeah,
that was going to be mine is Michigan. So yeah, I'll take Michigan in that one just to be different. But again, 3 people who are Longhorn dislikers agree it's a fantastic logo. It's like the Texas Longhorns is the most perfect marriage of location, Longhorn, and design ever. And it's just for a team we all don't like. So it makes it hard to say that, but that's
true. How good it is.
Yeah.
We all 3 don't like them, but all 3 of us understand, respect the logo. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Very nice, Andrew, on that one. And one of the other topics, by the way, just off the top, what's your walk-up song? Things like that. We'll start doing that, Andrew. All right. Here we go. This is trivia. Since 1980, this college football program has logged more weeks in the AP Top 10 than any other school. Man, you got bangers. Bangers. Ohio State has not really had a downtime. Slightly for a year or two. And Alabama on and off. Oklahoma, up until Stoops, there was that 5 or 6 year drought. Florida State. Guys, I'd say Ohio State. We've talked about this. Now we're talking top 10. They just have had very few slumps.
I think it's Ohio State.
Okay.
Craig?
You both say Ohio State. Is that what y'all said?
Yeah. Now this is a very difficult one because top 10 is different than just being ranked.
I feel like I read something about Oklahoma not that long ago being the most ranked team. Whether that was AP top 10 or not, I think that I would lean Oklahoma, but I'll default. It's 2 out of 3. So y'all say Ohio State, I'll roll with that.
I'll also say this, and this is not because Paul's here, but Florida State's run under Bowden for year after year after year was like top 5.
Yeah.
So what are we going to say? Paul?
I'm going to say Ohio State. I still think it's Ohio State.
All right. I'm going to say Ohio State, and it's Ohio State. 448 weeks since 1980. So that's 45 years times 12. Well, that's a bunch. That's a whole lot, man. Ryan Day now, Woody Hayes started it back in the 70s, early 80s. He was fired before then, wasn't he?
The only, the other 3 just have had these prolonged droughts of where they weren't in the top 10 at all. Like even when they weren't having awful seasons, they were getting ranked in 22, things like that. So,
Hayes' last year with Ohio State would have been 1978 when he punched the Clemson player on the sideline, but they've had a bunch of other guys very successful. All right, thank you. We got it right at 48. This player became the oldest to ever play in an NFL game. I want to immediately say George Blanda because he was not the quarterback at the time. He was a kicker. Morton Anderson's a kicker, and he might have never stopped. I think he's still kicking for the Saints or somebody. You guys, you go with what you want to say here.
I think the record was George Blanda, but then it became Morton Anderson. So I'm going to say Morton Anderson.
That image, by the way, looks like Terry Bradshaw.
It also looks like George Blanda.
Yeah, it does.
That's what he
Craig?
looks like.
That seems to make a lot of sense. Morton Anderson.
Yeah, let's go with Morton.
I'm going to say Blanda, but we'll defer to Morton Anderson. Andrew? Golly, you guys. I'm old enough to remember that. 48 years old. Played both quarterback and kicker in his career, was a part of the Oakland Raiders, and was really good, and was a great kicker, too. All right. Now to the poll results. Which country should host the next Big 12 football showcase? Mexico. Remember, they were to have that famous basketball game down there. That went away. 45%. I said Germany just because I think it's a long trip. Mexico wouldn't be as long. I had said Germany, but Mexico was 45%.
Yeah, I don't think France is ready to embrace American football. It would be great if they were, but I don't think they're quite there yet.
It's too physical.
They play rugby over
there. They do know that.
Hey, man, I know it's easy to punk the French, but they'll at least stand up when they need to and get done what they need to get done.
That's true.
And revolt and tell their government what's what. I give them credit for that. They will stand up for themselves as a people, and And the whole World War II jokey joke thing, and I get it, but those people, when they're pissed off enough, they get together like no other.
So there we are with Mexico dominating almost half of the vote, though. So there's Mexico. I wouldn't have gotten that one.
They are in a world of trouble right now, though, as a country. They've seen better times for certain. But, yeah, I mean, Mexico just makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
All right. And they have that stadium that's hosted the Cowboys games and others, so it's ready for you. All right. Now, will home plate umpires, you saw this, that they will start to use robots, ABS systems. Yes, robots do a better job. 53% say this will be fully replacing human umpires. No human umpires forever for those who have their heels dug in, and eventually, but not in our lifetime, 19%.
I would vote for eventually, but not in our lifetimes, just because that feels where everything is going. And I hope I'm long dead before they are full-time robot umpires, because that means that the Terminator uprising has happened. But I don't think robots do a better job. And I do think that, like, it needs to be clear that the ABS system and the umpire work in tandem together for the most part. So I am all for that. And that's what I think you need, because I do think you need some human judgment, because, again, ask ChatGPT anything, and then you'll start reading it and it'll get close, but it's not all the way there.
Well,
computers only know what you tell them.
Again, this is the question, though, it's fully replacing humans, and I don't want to see that happen.
That's why. Yeah. Computers only know what you tell them. And so the human experience of this is why this is different, and it's not. And again, not every call is completely black and white on the surface. So I think there needs to be some human nuance to it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people peacocking answers that they just read off AI that think that they are saying the right thing, and they clearly read AI and AI was wrong, because that happens quite a bit. Maybe not as often as it did 6 months ago or a year ago, but I've come across plenty of examples where it's not quite all the way accurate because of maybe the way the question's worded or what. So, yeah, don't take everything at face value, although it's a tool that's awfully useful for sure, just like robot umpires and this tracking system and all that can be useful to some degree. But no, I don't think it should completely replace human umpires, and I don't think we're necessarily all that close to that just yet. I mean, they're going to be there for challenges, and that's pretty much it. It's going to still be an umpire calling balls and strikes, and I think it will be for the foreseeable future, because I think once you get to the point of there's just a camera sitting behind home plate, that's just going to be a little strange. And I maybe in my lifetime we get there, but yeah, I don't think we're quite to that point where we're just like replace the humans with robots.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. Make it better if you can improve it, great. And it definitely has improved baseball, because it does get everything ball and strike in a certain zone right. And there are times when, you know what, they do a hell of a better job than Angel Hernandez was doing, or some guys like that. So there is definitely usefulness, but it doesn't need to be the whole shebang just yet.
In tennis, you have the service line, and is it in or out? And you have a chance to say, hey, go to the replay. Just like in maybe football or whatever, they get it right. I mean, they're right, but it's not doing foot faults or not just other things. When it needs to be, when there's a specific perimeter or line or whatever, that's when it works.
Also, you can't get rid of the tennis umpires either, because then you'll never get to hear out in all the different languages or all the different accents.
And John McEnroe would just be miserably bored if he was still playing.
I'll just tell you, I love watching the Australian Open when it's like, out, crikey.
Yeah, no.
Yes, us Americans, the one Australian word we know from Steve Irwin. Thanks, Steve. R.I.P.
His son, by the way, killing it on Dancing with the Stars right now.
Oh, good for him. Good for him.
I wouldn't even know that was going on right now, but I'm glad you told me that. By the way, Paxton, he goes, I like ASU's Devil, the pitchfork logo. I think that's cool, too. Hey, Andrew, great job. Appreciate that. The ideas of putting it up and all the stuff. Garrett Ross is getting ready for 365 Sports with the 4 best segments and everything else he's putting out there in the inner space. I don't even know if that's a word. Brandon, great job running the mothership. Thank you, sir, very much. For Paul and Craig, I'm David Smoak. Thanks to our sponsors and you, our audience. We appreciate it. Have a great night. Joey McGuire tomorrow at 3:30 on 365 Sports.